Since the first human eyes opened beneath the vast canopy of the sky, the sun and the moon have been more than distant spheres of fire and stone, they have been companions, storytellers, and silent forces shaping the rhythm of life. In this opening movement of our journey, we enter a world where celestial bodies were not merely observed, but felt. Their light-guided migrations, marked seasons, stirred fear, and awakened a sense of mystery so profound that it still pulses through humanity today. To imagine those early moments is to walk barefoot across the ancient world, feeling the same shiver of awe that touched the minds of our ancestors when they first noticed that the heavens did not shift randomly, but moved with patient intention. The sun rose each morning with unwavering loyalty, warming the landscapes where early humans hunted, gathered, and survived. Its disappearance each night felt like a temporary death, a plunge into uncertainty that only resolved when dawn returned. The moon, gentler yet unpredictable, appeared in phases that seemed to follow its own secret logic. Sometimes it illuminated the night pathway with silvered grace. Other times it abandoned the sky altogether, leaving darkness thicker and more unsettling. To prehistoric minds, these two sky beings were not objects, they were presences, each with a personality, each with a role in the vast conversation of existence. When we speak of the celestial dialogue, we refer to more than their physical movements. We speak of the stories they wrote upon human consciousness. Even before language, humans felt the rhythms of these cosmic bodies. When the sun dipped too early, the instinctive unease of winter survival rose. When the moon swelled to its full brilliance, nocturnal hunts stretched longer, migrations extended farther, and rituals deepened with an almost electric energy. In every continent, across thousands of generations, humans slowly discovered patterns in the sky, patterns that resonated with the patterns of life itself. Birth, death, hunger, abundance, storms, droughts, these earthly events found meaning in the steady choreography of the heavens. This section begins the entire narrative with a gentle but immersive descent into that ancient interconnectedness. We explore how humans, long before writing or civilization, began decoding celestial rhythms. The sun's path became a compass. The moon's cycle became a calendar. Over time, both became metaphors for the dualities that shaped human existence: light and darkness, certainty and uncertainty, warmth and cold, life and loss. Modern viewers, surrounded by artificial light and digital clocks, often forget how powerful these celestial cycles once were. Yet the emotional imprint remains within us, an evolutionary inheritance that stirs whenever we witness an eclipse, a blood moon, a solstice sunrise, or even a perfectly clear night sky. As we enter this story, the tone is intentional, slow, meditative, cinematic. The kind of pace that encourages the audience not just to learn, but to remember. To feel. To step out of modern time and into geological time. To breathe with the sky as our ancestors once did. For their world was not static or small. It was a living interplay between earth and cosmos, predator and prey, darkness and fire. Understanding that perspective is essential as we prepare to explore how the coming decades, 2025 through 2030, carry echoes of those ancient rhythms. Because cosmic patterns do not simply end. They loop. They return. And when certain alignments reappear, humanity often finds itself on the threshold of transformation. In this opening, we also establish a thematic question: what does it truly mean when the sun and moon unite? In myth, such unions were often omens, moments when the world paused, when the line between natural and supernatural blurred. In science, they are predictable alignments defined by orbital mechanics. But in human experience, they become something else entirely: catalysts for reflection, turning points in collective imagination. An eclipse, for example, can still create silence in a crowd of thousands. Not because people fear the gods, but because some ancient, wordless memory awakens, a reminder that we are part of something vast, mathematical, and strangely intimate. This dual framing, mythic and scientific, creates the backbone of the documentary. The aim is not to sensationalize cosmic events nor reduce them to dry astronomy. Instead, we navigate the space where science meets emotion, where orbit meets meaning. This blend mirrors how early humans experienced the world. For them, nature was not separate from spirituality. Observation was not divorced from interpretation. Every shift in the sky held both practical implications and symbolic weight. Today, though filtered through technology and modern sensibilities, that instinct remains alive. As the section progresses, imagery becomes richer. Dawn light stretching over prehistoric plains. Moonlight glinting on obsidian tools. Campfires flickering beneath constellations newly learned. These scenes immerse viewers not in fantasy, but in a scientifically informed reconstruction of early human perception. Water reflecting a crescent moon. Shadows lengthening under solstice sunlight. Human silhouettes watching the horizon with the same anticipation we feel when waiting for a rare eclipse or meteor shower. Through these descriptions, the audience reconnects with something primal and grounding. The final portion of this expanded section gently leads toward the central thesis of the video, that cosmic events, especially periods of synchrony between the sun and moon, have historically coincided with moments of deep human transition. Not because the heavens dictate our fate, but because humans respond to patterns. We observe, we interpret, we feel, and we adapt. And in the coming decade, those patterns will align again. Whether coincidence or cosmic rhythm, such moments challenge us to look upward and inward simultaneously. The section closes with an invitation, an emotional bridge. The viewer is asked to imagine standing at the edge of a prehistoric world at sunrise, watching the horizon shift from darkness to gold, knowing something profound was unfolding long before humans existed and will continue long after we are gone. This sense of humility, wonder, and continuity sets the stage for everything that follows. It prepares the audience to explore not just astronomical events, but what those events reveal about humanity's place in the cosmos. For in every era, from the Pleistocene to the present, the sun and moon have spoken. And now, once again, we are learning to listen. Long before the rise of cities, rituals, and written history, small groups of early humans wandered across savannas, coastlines, and forests, guided more by instinct than knowledge. Yet even in those distant ages, something unusual stirred within them, an awareness that the world above was not random. The sky, with its wandering lights and phases, slowly became the first clock, the first teacher, the first mystery. When we speak of the earliest skywatchers, we are not referring to astronomers or priests. We are speaking of ordinary beings, hunters, gatherers, toolmakers, whose survival depended on recognizing the hidden rhythms of nature. And the heavens, vast and unchanging, became their silent companion. It is easy to imagine a small band of hominins huddling near a fire, watching sparks lift into the night sky, merging with distant stars. The moon, in its slow and steady cycle, would have been the most noticeable celestial phenomenon. Sometimes it appeared brilliantly full, commanding the darkness with a soft, silver glow. Sometimes it shrank to a thin blade of light. And sometimes it disappeared entirely, leaving nights that felt heavier, colder, more vulnerable. To these early minds, curious yet cautious, the moon's cycle was a signal, one that hinted at an underlying order. Its phases became markers of time long before humans carved symbols into bone or pressed footprints into wet clay. Across prehistoric eras, evidence shows early humans recording the moon's changing shape. The famous Ashango bone, etched with deliberate markings more than 20,000 years ago, is believed by many researchers to be an early lunar calendar. Imagine the patience required, night after night, observing the sky, noticing that the moon returns to its fullness after a predictable number of days. Such consistency would have been astonishing in a world where storms, predators, and migrations felt random and uncontrollable. The sky became the first phenomenon that promised reliability. The sun, equally vital yet less mysterious, established the daily pattern of life. Warmth meant safety. Daylight meant movement. Sunrise signaled renewal, while sunset warned of the dangers that came with darkness. Early humans may not have understood the sun's size or distance, but they respected its power. Shadows lengthened as seasons shifted, and the sun's arc changed across the year, subtle clues that guided migration, hunting, and sheltering strategies. Over generations, humans learned to recognize solstices, the longest and shortest days, even without formal measurement. These turning points shaped their understanding of cycles, teaching them that life rises, falls, and rises again. In this section, we step into the emotional world of those first sky watchers. Their relationship with the sky was not scientific, it was sensory. A full moon meant visibility, allowing them to hunt or travel farther. A new moon meant deeper sleep or heightened alertness. A winter solstice meant hardship ahead. A summer solstice meant abundance. Their instinctive interpretations eventually evolved into stories, then beliefs, and finally traditions that formed the backbone of early human culture. Every observation carried weight because every observation affected survival. We imagine their earliest attempts to connect Earth's rhythms with the heavens. The stars formed patterns that coincided with seasonal changes. The rising of certain constellations may have signaled migrations of prey. The appearance of Venus in the morning sky may have warned of upcoming temperature shifts. Humans learned to read the heavens not because of curiosity alone, but because the sky became a map of possibility, a way to predict what the land might bring next. This expanded narrative also touches on the emotional depth of these discoveries. Think of the awe they felt when noticing a lunar eclipse for the very first time. The moon, their nightly companion, slowly darkening into a reddish shadow, it must have triggered wonder, fear, and a desperate need to assign meaning. Such sky events became woven into the earliest myths, shaping interpretations of divine forces or ancestral spirits. Even before language evolved into complexity, gestures and sounds may have expressed reverence for these rare celestial transformations. Another essential part of this section is the environment itself. Early humans lived within the landscape, not separate from it. The sky was their ceiling, the earth their floor. Every day, they walked across terrain shaped by ice age winds, ancient rivers, and migrating herds. The environment did not simply surround them, it informed their worldview. When they saw the sun rise behind distant mountains or watched the moon reflect in shallow water, these moments formed emotional memories. Over thousands of years, such memories cultivated a spiritual relationship with the cosmos. As we expand deeper into this narrative, the audience is reminded that these first skywatchers established the framework for all later astronomy, mythology, and philosophy. Without instruments, they achieved something extraordinary. They recognized that the universe moves with cycles. That the moon repeats itself. That the sun returns. That darkness is temporary. These realizations seeded the earliest human concepts of hope, renewal, and continuity. Even today, when we watch a sunrise or a full moon, we feel echoes of that ancient understanding. Toward the end of the section, we build a smooth transition to the next chapter by emphasizing that the first skywatchers not only observed the heavens but also interpreted them. Observation alone is passive. Interpretation is active. And interpretation is where myth begins. These early humans, looking up night after night, began crafting explanations, stories that helped them make sense of forces far beyond their control. Their interpretations became the foundation for countless myths about the sun and moon as siblings, rivals, lovers, or deities whose actions shaped the world below. This bridge leads directly into Section 3, where we explore the mythic identities the sun and moon took across different cultures. But everything begins here, with those first watchers, silently learning from the sky, shaping the earliest human understanding of time, nature, and existence. Their curiosity paved the way for civilization. Their awe became humanity's first language with the cosmos. From the moment early humans began to tell stories, the sun and moon became characters, eternal figures who danced, fought, loved, or fled across the heavens. Myths did not arise randomly, they emerged from a deep need to understand patterns that were too grand, too consistent, and too mysterious to ignore. In this section, we step into the ancient world of imagination, exploring how cultures separated by oceans and millennia crafted remarkably similar narratives about these two celestial giants. Their stories reveal not just creativity but a collective psychological response to a universe that moved with purpose. Imagine a prehistoric storyteller crouched beside a fire, shadows flickering across stone walls while the moon rises behind him. His tribe listens intently as he describes why the moon grows and diminishes, why the sun chases the horizon, and what happens when the two meet in the sky. These early stories shaped identity, belief, and social cohesion. They were more than entertainment, they were explanations for the unexplainable, emotional anchors in a world where survival was uncertain. Across ancient cultures, one theme appears again and again: the sun and moon as partners locked in an eternal chase. In some traditions, they are lovers separated by fate, destined to meet only during eclipses when the world briefly holds its breath. In others, they are siblings, one blazing with fire, the other cool and reflective, balancing light and darkness. Many myths portray the sun as masculine and the moon as feminine, echoing human interpretations of strength and gentleness, heat and calm, day and night. These roles were fluid, shaped by the storytelling needs of each society. In Norse tales, the sun and moon are chased by wolves, constantly fleeing across the sky. Eclipses occur when the wolves draw near, threatening to swallow them. In these myths, cosmic events symbolize the fragility of order, chaos lurking just beyond the horizon. This understanding tells us something profound. Ancient humans saw celestial cycles not only as predictable but also as vulnerable to disruption. Eclipses were not merely phenomena, they were crises requiring communal response, chants, drums, or ritual movements to restore cosmic balance. Meanwhile, in Mayan mythology, the sun and moon take on heroic roles. The moon goddess often represents fertility, agriculture, and cycles of growth, while the sun journeys through the underworld each night, battling darkness before rising renewed. This daily struggle became a metaphor for human resilience. Even today, these interpretations, light overcoming darkness, rebirth following struggle, remain embedded in human psychology. Another powerful motif appears in many Asian traditions: the sun and moon as symbols of yin and yang, dual forces that define each other through contrast. Their relationship is not conflict, but harmony. When the sun dominates, warmth and activity flourish. When the moon reigns, reflection and intuition deepen. Eclipses, in this framework, are moments when duality merges, reminding people that opposites are interconnected. This philosophical reading of the sky shaped entire worldviews, influencing architecture, agriculture, spirituality, and governance. As we journey through these myths, it becomes clear that eclipses were among the most significant sky events across cultures. Imagine the terror and awe of ancient communities witnessing day turn into night, the sun swallowed by a dark disk. Birds quieted. Animals panicked. Shadows sharpened. The air cooled. Without understanding orbital mechanics, people interpreted eclipses as cosmic unions or cosmic warnings. Many believed they signaled the death or rebirth of kings, the beginning of wars, or the arrival of divine messages. In China, drums and gongs were beaten during eclipses to scare away the dragon believed to devour the sun. In parts of Africa, communities sang to encourage harmony between the sun and moon during their rare meeting. In Babylon, astronomers tracked eclipse cycles with extraordinary precision, not for scientific curiosity alone but to advise kings on political decisions. Myths and power intertwined, with celestial events shaping real-world actions. Another striking theme is sacrifice. In Aztec mythology, the sun required nourishment in the form of offerings to ensure it would rise every day. Whether interpreted literally or metaphorically, these stories reflect how deeply humans felt their dependence on the cosmos. The sun was not taken for granted, it was honored as a life-giver whose continuity was uncertain without human participation. This belief reveals a profound truth: humanity has always sought to influence forces beyond its control, creating rituals to bridge the gap between earth and sky. But myths were not only explanations, they were mirrors of human emotion. The sun's constancy symbolized strength, authority, protection. The moon's shifting shape symbolized vulnerability, mystery, cyclical transformation. Together, they formed a cosmic drama that echoed the human condition: permanence and change, clarity and ambiguity, pursuit and surrender. When we read these ancient narratives, we are reading the emotional history of our species. This section also highlights an important psychological insight: while cultures differed, the symbolic roles of the sun and moon often converged. Why? Because humans everywhere shared similar fears, hopes, and fascinations. The sun's dominance during the day inspired reverence for power. The moon's phases inspired contemplation of time, fertility, and mood. And their rare alignments, eclipses, triggered collective emotional responses that demanded explanation. As we expand deeper, we consider how myths were used to maintain social order. Leaders, shamans, and storytellers interpreted the heavens to justify laws, encourage unity, or warn against wrongdoing. If the sun vanished during a solar eclipse, it could be framed as displeasure from the gods, prompting people to restore harmony with offerings or collective actions. Such narratives reveal the early roots of astronomy as a political instrument, where understanding the sky granted authority. Yet the most touching part of these myths is their humanity. Behind every story lies a person who once looked up, felt overwhelmed, and tried to make sense of something larger than themselves. These stories preserve not only information but emotion, fear of darkness, gratitude for warmth, curiosity about the unknown. Even today, we feel those same emotions when witnessing a lunar eclipse or watching the sun dip below the horizon. Myth and science may appear different, but they grow from the same seed: the desire to understand our place in the universe. As the section approaches its close, we prepare the audience for a shift from mythic narrative to scientific revelation. The question now becomes, after thousands of years of telling stories about the sun and moon, how did humans eventually discover the precise mathematics behind their movements? How did myth evolve into measurement? This transition leads smoothly into the next section, where we explore celestial mechanics, the hidden cycles that shape the dance between sun and moon. Yet even as we move into science, the myths remain important. They remind us that logic alone cannot explain the emotional impact of the sky. The sun and moon are more than astronomical bodies, they are symbols woven deep into the collective story of humanity. Long before humans understood gravity, orbital mechanics, or the geometry of eclipses, the sun and moon were already moving with exquisite precision. Each rise and setting, each waxing and waning, each alignment was part of a grand celestial equation, patterns embedded in the sky long before any mind could decode them. When early civilizations began studying these motions, they discovered something astonishing: the heavens were not chaotic. They were rhythmic, predictable, layered with cycles that nested within one another like ancient cosmic gears. This section pulls the viewer gently from mythology into the quiet order of science, revealing how celestial mechanics became the bridge between wonder and understanding. The moon, with its familiar pattern of phases, became humanity's first hint of mathematical repetition. A synodic month, roughly 29.5 days, governs the moon's journey from new to full and back again. To the untrained eye, this seems simple, but within this cycle lies intricate variation. The moon's orbit is not a perfect circle. Its distance from Earth shifts. Its speed fluctuates. Its path tilts relative to Earth's. Yet despite this complexity, the phases repeat with such reliability that ancient cultures built calendars, rituals, and agricultural schedules around them. Early astronomers recognized that these cycles were more than symbolic, they were measurable, stable, almost musical in their cadence. The sun's cycle, too, follows patterns. Its path along the horizon shifts day by day, marking solstices and equinoxes. These solar milestones became the blueprint for early architecture. Stonehenge, Nabta Playa, Chankillo, and countless lesser-known sites aligned perfectly with sunrise or sunset on specific days of the year. These were not acts of random construction, they were deliberate attempts to anchor human existence to cosmic order. Through observation alone, humans learned that the sun completes a yearly loop, shaping seasons and determining survival. What they could not see, but unknowingly tracked, was the deeper mathematics behind these movements. As viewers are guided deeper into this narrative, we reveal the geometry of eclipses, the moments when the sun, earth, and moon align in syzygy, forming breathtaking shadows across the planet. Eclipses do not occur every month, even though the moon orbits Earth regularly. This is because its orbit tilts about 5 degrees relative to Earth's orbit around the sun. Only when the moon crosses the nodal points at the right time in its phase cycle can an eclipse occur. These nodal crossings follow an 18-6-year cycle, known as the lunar nodal or draconic cycle, which was recognized by ancient astronomers long before modern science explained it. Here we introduce the Saros cycle, one of the most elegant mathematical patterns discovered in antiquity. Approximately every 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours, eclipses repeat with nearly identical geometry. This means an eclipse seen today has a celestial twin that will appear nearly 2 decades later. The Saros cycle is a perfect example of how ancient humans merged intuition with mathematics. Babylonian, Greek, and Egyptian skywatchers tracked these cycles with remarkable precision, predicting eclipses centuries before clocks, telescopes, or computers existed. They observed, recorded, compared, and deduced an underlying cosmic pattern that connected generations. The audience experiences this transition, from mythic awe to scientific clarity, without losing the emotional depth. The hidden mathematics of the sky does not diminish beauty, it magnifies it. To know that eclipses follow a repeating sequence does not rob them of wonder. Instead, it reveals the universe as a place of harmony, where even the grandest events follow subtle, repeating rhythms. This realization shaped philosophy, influenced religion, and laid the foundation for scientific inquiry. We then explore the poetic symmetry between solar and lunar cycles. The moon controls tides, affects night visibility, and influences biological rhythms in countless species. The sun dictates warmth, seasons, and the length of every day. Their cycles overlap in nuanced ways. Some years bring clusters of eclipses. Others remain quiet. Some decades feature intense solar activity. Others rest in cosmic stillness. These layered rhythms form a celestial tapestry, one that humans have relied on for orientation, measurement, and meaning. As the section deepens, we introduce the idea that cosmic cycles are not only astronomical but psychological. Humans evolved under these rhythms. Circadian cycles align with the sun, reproductive cycles align with lunar patterns. Migration, agriculture, and religious festivals all grew from celestial repetition. Even now, in a digital age, people feel shifts in mood or energy during full moons, solstices, or eclipses, echoes of ancient instincts encoded in our biology. From here, we guide the viewer into a deeper layer of narrative purpose. Understanding these cycles is essential for grasping why the upcoming decade, from 2025 to 2030, feels significant. Not because the universe changes its mind, but because cycles that normally occur separately are now converging. Solar maxima. Lunar standstill. Nodal returns. Overlapping eclipse clusters. These are not omens in a supernatural sense, they are natural harmonies, rare cosmic chords in a song millions of years old. And understanding their mathematics allows us to appreciate their beauty more fully. The section slowly shifts toward philosophical reflection. The universe does not speak in words, but in patterns. Humans, in turn, have learned to listen not through mythology alone, but through observation and calculation. It is remarkable that we, once frightened by eclipses, now predict them with mathematical precision. Yet the emotional core of these events remains untouched. People still gather by the thousands to witness a solar eclipse. They still gasp when the moon turns red. They still feel something ancient awaken inside them, a reminder that cosmic cycles shape not only the sky but the human spirit. As this section concludes, it prepares the viewer for the next chapter by emphasizing that hidden mathematical patterns shaped every major belief system and cultural worldview. The sun and moon were not merely symbols, they were the earliest frameworks for interpreting time, change, and fate. And now, as the 2025-2030s bring a rare overlap of these cycles, we revisit the question, what happens when cosmic timing aligns? What shifts in culture, environment, and consciousness might follow? This gentle transition leads directly into the next section, where eclipses take center stage, not as myths, nor as mathematical curiosities, but as historical turning points that shaped civilizations. Understanding the cycles gives meaning to the moments. And the moments ahead may be part of a much larger story, one that began long before humans existed, and continues to unfold above us with quiet, cosmic precision. Throughout human history, few celestial events have stirred as much awe, fear, and cultural transformation as eclipses. When the sun or moon darkens unexpectedly, the world shifts, if only for a moment, into something unfamiliar. Colors fade. Birds fall silent. Shadows sharpen in strange ways. Night intrudes upon day, or the moon reddens as though stained by fire. To modern eyes, these phenomena are predictable. To ancient viewers, they were cosmic intrusions, ruptures in the normal order of things, moments when the heavens seemed to speak directly to humanity. This section explores how eclipses, both solar and lunar, became catalysts for historical shifts and psychological awakening, shaping decisions, myths, and movements across time. Imagine a morning thousands of years ago. Villagers begin their daily routines as sunlight warms the earth. Without warning, a strange dimness settles. People look up and see the sun slowly devoured by an encroaching shadow. Fear ripples through the community. Fires are stoked. Drums are beaten. Priests or shamans rush to interpret the event, for such a moment cannot be random. It must be a sign. In that fear and reverence lies a fundamental truth: eclipses disrupt normality, and disruption often leads to transformation. Many ancient civilizations viewed eclipses as celestial verdicts, messages that kings, leaders, or entire societies had to interpret. In Babylon, where astronomical knowledge was highly advanced, scribes tracked eclipse cycles meticulously. They understood enough to predict them, yet still believed these events could dictate political decisions. If a solar eclipse occurred during a king's reign, rituals were performed to transfer symbolic rulership onto a temporary substitute, protecting the true monarch from cosmic danger. These traditions show the profound weight eclipses carried, not simply as natural events but as instruments of fate. In ancient China, eclipses were interpreted as warnings from heaven. Because emperors were believed to rule under the mandate of heaven, any disturbance in the sky might imply divine dissatisfaction. Historical records describe royal advisors scrambling to explain eclipses, seeking to restore harmony by adjusting laws, redistributing resources, or performing elaborate ceremonies. The fact that entire political reforms could be triggered by a single eclipse reveals how deeply humans linked their destiny with the heavens. Solar eclipses, in particular, carry dramatic emotional force. Daylight is the essence of normal life, and its sudden disappearance taps into primal fear. People instinctively slow down, watch, and wait. Even today, viewers often fall silent as the moon begins to cover the sun, sensing an ancient tension that no amount of scientific explanation can fully erase. This emotional resonance explains why eclipses frequently appear in the turning points of myth, prophecy, and storytelling. They were woven into narratives of war, renewal, and divine intervention. History provides remarkable examples. During the war between the Medes and Lydians in 585 BCE, a total solar eclipse occurred mid-battle. Soldiers on both sides panicked, interpreting the darkening sky as a celestial command to stop fighting. They laid down their weapons, and the conflict ended in a negotiated peace. A cosmic moment reshaped geopolitical history. Similar stories emerge from Greece, Persia, and even the early Americas, where leaders used eclipse predictions to negotiate power or demonstrate divine favor. Lunar eclipses, though less dramatic in physical effect, carried deep symbolic meaning. Watching the moon turn red, its familiar glow replaced by an eerie, coppery hue, affected people emotionally in profound ways. Many cultures viewed it as the moon's temporary death, a moment when the boundary between the living world and the spiritual world thinned. Rituals were performed to protect the community, livestock, and unborn children. Drums, chants, and offerings filled the night air, echoing humanity's attempt to intervene in a cosmic event beyond their control. In the ancient Americas, the Maya and Inca tracked lunar eclipses with astonishing accuracy. They believed the moon goddess was endangered during such events and that human participation through ritual was essential to ensure her safe return. This communal response to celestial events strengthened social bonds. It made the sky a shared responsibility, reinforcing unity and meaning in daily life. As we expand deeper into the historical narrative, we examine how eclipses influenced not just political and spiritual decisions but also artistic and architectural expressions. Ancient monuments aligned with eclipse pathways or lunar standstill points. Stone engravings depict crescent shadows and solar rings. Entire city layouts were designed to capture the moment of an eclipse or solstice sunrise. These architectural imprints reveal a timeless desire to anchor human existence within cosmic cycles, a desire still alive in modern skywatchers who travel thousands of miles to witness eclipse paths. Beyond history, there is the psychological dimension. Eclipses create momentary dissonance between expectation and reality. Humans rely on the consistency of daylight and moonlight. When that consistency breaks, it creates a rare cognitive and emotional opening. People reflect more. They feel smaller, yet more connected. They wonder not just what is happening, but why it moves them. This shift in perception can catalyze change, both individually and collectively. Eclipses awaken a dormant awareness that life is governed by forces beyond human control, and that realization often sparks creativity, introspection, and transformation. The section also ties eclipses to periods of cultural transition. Historically, clusters of eclipses have coincided with shifts in belief systems, new political orders, and bursts of philosophical or artistic innovation. This is not to suggest that eclipses cause these events, but rather that their emotional and symbolic gravity influences human behavior. When shadows cross the earth, people pause, and when they pause, they rethink. As we move toward the close of this expanded section, we prepare the viewer to enter the next phase of the documentary. The coming decade, from 2025 to 2030, is marked by an unusual clustering of eclipse events. Understanding the historical weight of eclipses allows us to appreciate the potential cultural, psychological, and symbolic impact of this approaching window. Just as ancient civilizations responded to these celestial anomalies with reverence and adaptation, modern humans, despite our technology, remain sensitive to their presence. The transition into the next chapter emphasizes that eclipses have always marked crossroads. They are moments when the familiar world briefly dissolves, inviting reflection and change. And as the shadows prepare to touch the earth again in the coming years, humanity stands once more at a threshold, one shaped not by myth alone, nor by science alone, but by the timeless interplay between cosmic rhythm and human meaning. As humanity moves further into the 21st century, we often speak of technological revolutions, environmental challenges, and geopolitical shifts. But there is another, quieter transformation unfolding above us, one written not in human language, but in celestial timing. The years 2025 through 2030 form a rare decade in which multiple astronomical cycles converge, overlapping in ways that have historically coincided with eras of introspection, change, and heightened collective awareness. This section serves as the doorway into that unfolding cosmic window. We step from history into the present, from past interpretations into future possibilities, guided by the rhythms of the sun and moon as they prepare once again to create a sequence of alignments that will mark the decade as something extraordinary. To understand why these years feel like a portal, we must look at the density of celestial events they contain. Eclipses come not as isolated phenomena but as clusters, solar and lunar shadows crossing the Earth in rapid succession. The moon nears its major standstill, widening its path across the sky. The sun approaches the height of its activity cycle, sending surges of energy toward Earth. These overlapping cycles form a cosmic symphony, each component playing its own part, yet harmonizing with the others to create a period of heightened intensity. When such synchrony occurs, history has often recorded cultural and psychological shifts, not caused by the heavens, but shaped by the subtle influence they exert on human perception and behavior. The decade begins with a significant solar eclipse in 2026, followed soon after by a series of lunar eclipses that form a tight alignment window. These are not random occurrences, they follow the deep mathematics of the Saros and nodal cycles. Yet to those experiencing them, standing in a darkened landscape as the sun's light fades or watching the moon turn copper-red, these events still feel like moments lifted out of myth. The sky becomes a reminder that the universe is alive with motion and rhythm. And humans, despite all technological mastery, remain profoundly sensitive to these natural disruptions of normality. One might ask, what makes this decade different from any other? The answer lies not in a single event, but in the combination of several rare cycles reaching critical points at nearly the same time. The 18-6-year lunar nodal cycle reaches its peak around 2025, bringing the moon's extremes into dramatic visibility. Simultaneously, the sun enters a phase of heightened magnetic activity known as the solar maximum, a period that affects Earth's magnetic field and ionosphere, sometimes subtly influencing communication systems, auroras, and atmospheric conditions. These two cycles, solar and lunar, operate independently, yet their overlap forms a symbolic and energetic bridge unlike typical years. As we explore this narrative, we emphasize not only the mechanics of these cycles but their emotional weight. The 2025 to 2030 window feels like a threshold because humanity stands at a crossroads in many domains. Culturally, we face questions about identity, meaning, and collective purpose. Technologically, we are reimagining intelligence and communication. Environmentally, we confront the consequences of our long-term choices. In such times, celestial events often become mirrors, not predictors, reflections of the internal atmosphere of human civilization. When rare cosmic rhythms converge, they provide a backdrop against which humanity reassesses itself. This section paints a cinematic picture of the coming decade. Imagine standing on a quiet hilltop in 2026, the world around you dimming as the sun begins to vanish behind the moon. The air cools. The horizon glows with an eerie ring of fire. For a brief moment, the world feels suspended. Millions of people across continents witness the same event, united not by politics or culture, but by a single shadow cast across Earth. This shared experience has the power to shape collective mood. Eclipses have always carried this effect, but when they occur within a concentrated period, parallel to other cosmic events, their impact feels amplified. We then widen the lens to consider global psychology. In modern life, people are often disconnected from natural cycles. Artificial light replaces sunrise and sunset. Screens replace the night sky. Yet during celestial events, this disconnection briefly dissolves. People go outside. They look up. They remember that their world is not isolated but held within a vast cosmic structure. The 2025 to 2030 decade offers multiple opportunities for such reconnection, making it fertile ground for cultural shifts toward reflection, creativity, and renewed curiosity about humanity's relationship with the universe. The narrative in this section flows between the scientific and the symbolic. While scientists study solar storms, lunar standstills, and eclipse pathways with precision instruments, ordinary people experience them through sight, emotion, and memory. This duality is essential to the documentary's tone. The decade ahead is not framed as a prophecy but as a synchrony, a moment when external cycles align with internal human questions. The sun and moon do not dictate our choices, but they remind us of patterns greater than ourselves. As we proceed, we reflect on historical analogues. Past periods marked by intense celestial activity often coincided with cultural awakenings, shifts in worldview, and bursts of innovation. Again, the aim is not to draw causal lines but to highlight that humans respond differently when the sky behaves differently. Whether through imagination, symbolism, or subconscious influence, celestial synchrony becomes an emotional catalyst. The 2025 to 2030 window, with its overlapping cycles, may serve as such a catalyst once more. We then explore the idea of a portal as a metaphorical entry point, a time during which the boundaries between ordinary perception and cosmic awareness thin. The viewer is invited to imagine not a magical gateway but a psychological one. When cycles converge, people tend to pause, question, and reorient themselves. These years feel like a doorway because they encourage introspection. The sun's heightened activity brings a sense of urgency and brightness. The moon's standstill adds unpredictability and emotional resonance. Eclipses punctuate the decade with moments of sudden clarity or disruption. Together, they create a narrative arc that feels transitional. As the section deepens, we shift toward the sensory experience of the coming decade. Nights when the moon rises unusually far north or south, painting the sky with unfamiliar angles. Days when solar storms color the poles with auroras that stretch farther than usual. The emotional effect of these phenomena is subtle but real. They remind us, in quiet and powerful ways, that life is part of a wider cosmic cycle. In a fast-paced world where attention is constantly pulled inward, these events turn our gaze outward, sometimes literally, sometimes philosophically. Toward the end of the section, we emphasize that the true significance of 2025 to 2030 lies not in prediction but in potential. This decade is an invitation. A moment where humanity can choose to listen to its ancient instincts, reconnect with natural rhythms, and explore new cultural, technological, and spiritual horizons. The synchrony between sun and moon does not demand a particular outcome. Instead, it provides a backdrop, a stage upon which humanity can examine itself with renewed clarity. The section closes with a gentle forward motion. As we step through the doorway into these upcoming years, the next chapter explores one of the central actors in this cosmic synchrony, the sun itself. Its approaching peak of activity carries both beauty and challenge, illuminating the next part of the story. The portal years have opened, and the journey continues upward, toward the heartbeat of the star that shapes every moment of life on Earth. The sun, though it appears constant and unwavering to the human eye, is a living star, breathing in cycles, pulsing with magnetic rhythms, and shaping the space around it with waves of charged energy. Every 11 years, its calm surface transforms into a canvas of sunspots, flares, prominences, and storms that ripple outward into the solar system. This heightened phase, known as the solar maximum, is more than a scientific event, it is the sun's moment of intensification, a period when its heartbeat quickens. As we enter the mid-2020s, this pulse grows stronger, aligning with other celestial rhythms and contributing to the unique synchrony of the coming decade. To understand why the solar maximum matters, we must first step into the sun's hidden world. Beneath its luminous surface lies a churning sea of plasma, constantly twisting and folding, generating complex magnetic fields. These fields rise to the surface, creating darkened sunspots, regions cooler than the surrounding areas yet charged with immense magnetic power. When these tangled fields suddenly snap or realign, they release explosive energy in the form of solar flares and coronal mass ejections. These eruptions send streams of particles hurtling through space at incredible speeds, interacting with planets, moons, and magnetic fields along the way. When these solar storms reach Earth, they create effects both visible and invisible. For those living near the poles, auroras bloom across the sky, shifting veils of green, purple, and red that seem to dance with the solar wind. These auroras are among the most beautiful gifts of the sun's activity, reminders that Earth is continuously connected to its star in a dynamic exchange of energy. But beyond their beauty, solar storms can also influence the technologies that modern life depends on. They can disrupt communication networks, interfere with satellites, and even influence power grids. While these effects are typically mild, they reveal our vulnerability to celestial forces we cannot control. Yet, beyond the practical considerations, there is something deeply symbolic about the solar maximum. Throughout human history, the sun has represented strength, vitality, and enlightenment. It has been worshipped as a deity, revered as a life-giver, and feared during times of scorching intensity. When the sun enters its most active phase, humans, despite all scientific understanding, still respond emotionally. There is a collective sense of anticipation, as though the world is preparing for something. The heightened activity stirs imagination and creates a psychological climate that mirrors the sun's own restlessness. As we explore this further, the viewer is guided into the intimate relationship between solar cycles and cultural cycles. Periods of high solar activity have historically coincided with bursts of innovation, technological advancements, and shifts in collective behavior. Again, the aim is not to imply causation, but to recognize that humans are influenced by the world around them. When the sun becomes more dynamic, people often become more dynamic, energetically, emotionally, creatively. The solar maximum becomes a metaphor for heightened possibility. In the context of the 2025 to 2030 Synchrony window, the sun's increasing intensity forms a crucial component of the cosmic narrative. As the sun reaches its peak around mid-decade, its energy interacts with the moon's approaching standstill and the dense cluster of eclipses ahead. The sky becomes a symphony of cycles, each one amplifying the others. The solar maximum brings light, power, and unpredictability to this symphony, shaping the atmosphere in which cultural and psychological changes may unfold. Imagine the world during these years. Scientists monitor sunspot counts, measuring the sun's growing activity. Auroras appear farther from the poles than usual, surprising people who have never seen them before. News outlets report unusual solar storms, reminding us that despite technological progress, our civilization remains connected to, and dependent on, the rhythms of a distant star. Children and adults alike gaze upward, watching shimmering lights ripple across the sky. In these moments, awe returns. It arrives quietly, like a forgotten instinct. This section also reflects on how the sun's behavior influences human symbolism. Increased solar activity often sparks conversations about energy, power, transformation, and renewal. It reminds us of the star that fuels every breath we take, every plant that grows, every ocean current that circulates. When the sun becomes restless, we are reminded that life exists not in isolation but in relationship. This awareness often inspires reflection on how humanity is using its own energy, technologically, creatively, politically. The solar maximum becomes a backdrop for reconsidering the direction of human civilization. As we move deeper into the narrative, we explore the quieter, more philosophical implications of the sun's cycle. There is a rhythm to existence, a balance between intensity and calm. The sun teaches this lesson through its 11-year heartbeat. For roughly half the cycle, it builds toward activity. For the other half, it retreats into a more peaceful phase. Humanity, too, cycles through periods of rest and renewal. The sun's example reminds us that intensity is temporary, but so is stillness. Each phase has purpose. Toward the end of this expanded section, we return to the sensory imagery that defines the documentary's cinematic tone. We imagine standing beneath a sky illuminated by a vast aurora, shimmering like curtains of light drawn by the sun's unseen hand. We feel the strange mix of wonder and humility that such a sight evokes. The sun's activity is not merely an astronomical phenomenon, it is a reminder of scale, of fragility, of connection. We live in the presence of a star that created the conditions for consciousness itself, a star that will continue its cycles long after human history has passed. The section concludes by preparing the viewer for the next chapter, which shifts focus from the Sun to the Moon as it approaches one of its most dramatic cycles, the major lunar standstill. The contrast between the Sun's intensity and the Moon's widening, unpredictable path adds emotional texture to the unfolding story. Together, these cycles form the backbone of the decade's cosmic synchrony. The Sun brings fire. The Moon brings motion. And humanity watches from the narrow space between them, sensing that something ancient is stirring once more. Every 18.6 years, the Moon performs one of its most dramatic maneuvers, a widening of its path across the sky so extreme that ancient civilizations once built entire monuments to track it. This rare event is known as a major lunar standstill, a period when the Moon rises and sets at the northernmost and southernmost points possible within its orbit. To the casual skywatcher, the difference is subtle, but to anyone paying attention, the Moon begins to move in ways that feel unusual, even uncanny. Its arc stretches farther, its behavior becomes less predictable, and its presence grows strangely commanding. As we approach the 2025 to 2026 standstill, we step into a window once recognized by Neolithic builders, storytellers, and astronomers across centuries, a window that marks a widening of cosmic motion and an intensification of lunar influence. To understand why the lunar standstill matters, we must begin with the Moon's tilted orbit. Unlike the Sun, which follows a steady path across the sky throughout the year, the Moon's orbit is inclined by about 5 degrees relative to Earth's. Most of the time, this tilt produces only moderate variations in moonrise and moonset points. But when the nodal cycle reaches its peak, the moment the Moon's orbital plane aligns at its most extreme angle, the lunar path expands dramatically. During a major standstill, the Moon can rise nearly at the northeast horizon and set in the northwest, or swing to the opposite extreme far in the southeast and southwest. To ancient observers, this widening was unmistakable, a cosmic gesture signaling that the Moon had reached the outer limits of its celestial dance. In the prehistoric world, where the sky served as both calendar and compass, this extreme lunar motion carried deep significance. Archaeological evidence suggests that some of the earliest large-scale monuments in Britain, such as the stones of Callanish and the structures at Newgrange, were oriented to capture the Moon's trajectory during standstill years. Imagine the people who built these sites. Working with stone, shadow, and horizon, they aligned their monuments not for everyday visibility but for moments that occurred only once every 2 decades. This effort reveals a profound reverence for the Moon's rhythm and a desire to synchronize human life with cosmic timing. The Moon was not simply a nighttime companion, it was a teacher, a calendar, a force worth honoring through architecture and ritual. As we explore this phenomenon more deeply, we notice that the standstill does something unusual to human perception. When the Moon rises at its extremes, it appears in unexpected places, emerging near the far edges of the horizon where people are unaccustomed to seeing it. These sudden, unfamiliar angles can create a sense of surprise or unease, echoing the ancient reactions that once shaped myths and ceremonies. The standstill disrupts the predictable pattern that humans rely on, making the Moon feel wilder, more alive. In a world dominated by artificial lighting and digital screens, few people notice the Moon's subtleties, yet those who do often describe the standstill years as strangely evocative, moments when the night sky feels different, as if stretching its limbs. During the 2025 to 2026 standstill, this expanded motion will coincide with a period of significant solar activity, creating a potent contrast between lunar subtleties and solar intensity. The Moon's exaggerated wanderings add emotional depth to the cosmic narrative unfolding across the decade. The Sun's solar maximum brings outward energy, dramatic eruptions, auroras, electromagnetic disruptions. The Moon's standstill brings inward energy, a shift in perspective, heightened intuition, and a sense of ancient memory resurfacing. Together, they frame the years ahead as a period of heightened awareness, where external and internal worlds reflect one another in meaningful ways. Throughout history, the moon has played a central role in shaping human psychology. Its phases influence mood, circadian rhythms, and cultural symbolism. During standstill years, this influence feels amplified. The moon spends more time lingering low on the horizon, its light interacting with atmospheric layers in ways that exaggerate its size and color. Harvest moons become deeper orange. Winter moons appear sharper and colder. Supermoons, if they coincide with the standstill, feel even more dramatic. These intensified visual effects deepen the emotional connection we have with the moon, whether consciously or subconsciously. We then step into the sensory world of those who lived through past standstills. Imagine standing among the stones of Callanish 4,000 years ago as the moon rises precisely between two monolithic pillars, an alignment that occurs only during a standstill. The people watching this event would not see it as mere coincidence. They would see it as confirmation that their world was connected to cosmic cycles beyond human control. The moon's extremes became messages, affirming that the universe had pattern, structure, and continuity. These alignments were deeply spiritual moments, occasions for ceremony, storytelling, and communal memory. In 2025 and 2026, we have the opportunity to witness what those ancient skywatchers saw. Though our understanding is framed by science, the emotional experience remains accessible. When the moon rises unexpectedly far north or south, it invites reflection. It reminds us that our ancestors looked at the same sky, felt the same wonder, and constructed entire belief systems around these celestial rhythms. The standstill becomes a bridge, connecting modern observers to the distant past, linking science with myth, and grounding contemporary life in the timeless movements of the heavens. As the section deepens, we reflect on how the standstill intersects with human perception of time. Unlike the phases of the moon or the daily path of the sun, the standstill is subtle enough that most people never notice it unless they intentionally observe the horizon. This means it rewards awareness. It invites participation. To witness the standstill is to slow down, to watch carefully, to become attentive to gradual shifts. In this way, the moon teaches patience, its extremes unfold over months, not moments. The standstill becomes a practice in observation, reminding us that meaningful patterns often emerge slowly, quietly, and only to those willing to look. Toward the end of the section, we connect the standstill to the broader theme of the documentary. The decade's cosmic synchrony is not shaped by a single dramatic event but by the layering of cycles, solar intensity, lunar extremes, eclipse clusters, and historical resonance. The moon's standstill adds a subtle yet powerful texture to this synchrony, mirroring humanity's emotional and introspective nature. While the sun's activity speaks to outward transformation, the moon's widening path speaks to inner transformation, a shift in perspective, feeling, and awareness. The section closes with a gentle transition toward the next chapter, where we explore how solar and lunar patterns begin to overlap and resonate with one another. The standstill is not an isolated phenomenon, it is one part of the cosmic conversation unfolding above us. As the moon stretches to its extremes in 2025 to 2026, it prepares the stage for an even more intricate harmony, the synchrony between sun and moon that defines the decade's unfolding story. Throughout human history, individual celestial cycles, the suns, the moons, and the earths, have shaped everything from agriculture to mythology. But there are rare periods when these separate rhythms begin to overlap, harmonizing in ways that feel almost choreographed. These are moments when the sky seems to speak in a unified voice, when solar energy and lunar motion resonate together. The 2025 to 2030 decade is one such moment, a window of extraordinary synchrony where solar maxima, lunar standstill, and dense eclipse clusters intertwine. This section explores how these overlapping cycles create not just astronomical significance, but an emotional and symbolic atmosphere that humanity cannot help but feel. Imagine the sky as a great cosmic instrument. The sun is its deep, resonant drum, steady yet capable of explosive crescendos during solar maximum. The moon is its subtle stringed voice, delicate yet expressive, shifting through phases with quiet elegance. During most periods, these two celestial players move independently, each performing its own melody. But during synchrony windows, their rhythms merge, creating harmonics that ripple across human awareness. These harmonics are not supernatural, they are natural rhythms that intersect with human perception, shaping collective mood and amplifying cultural movement. To understand how profound this overlap is, we begin with the solar maximum. The sun's heightened activity brings unpredictability, flares, storms, bursts of charged particles. These events influence Earth not just technologically but psychologically. People experience them indirectly through increased auroral displays, through disruptions in communication, through heightened global focus on space weather. The sun becomes present in human consciousness in a way it rarely is. This outward, fiery energy establishes the tempo for the decade. Now add the lunar standstill, occurring in 2025 to 2026. The moon stretches farther across the horizon, appearing in unexpected positions. Its extremes create visual and emotional impressions that stir subconscious memory. The moon's influence is inward, subtle, introspective, tied to rhythm and mood. When the moon behaves in unusual ways, people look up more often. They notice. They feel something shift. This widening of lunar motion complements the sun's intensification, creating a duality, outward power and inward depth, solar fire and lunar reflection. Together, they shape a psychological environment ripe for transformation. But the heart of this synchrony lies in the eclipse cycles that unfold throughout the decade. Eclipses occur when the sun, earth, and moon align in syzygy, moments when cosmic geometry becomes perfect. When these alignments cluster, as they will during these years, they create a sense of momentum. The sky punctuates time with shadows, each event a moment of pause, reflection, and collective attention. These eclipses serve as cosmic markers, points at which humans historically re-examine their beliefs, recalibrate their direction, or simply feel a heightened awareness of existence. During synchrony windows, eclipses are not isolated events, they become part of a larger cosmic narrative. The solar maximum sets the emotional backdrop. The lunar standstill amplifies the moon's presence. The eclipse clusters weave these elements together. A solar eclipse during a period of high solar activity feels more dramatic, more symbolically charged. A lunar eclipse during a standstill year appears more vivid, more emotionally resonant. These overlapping cycles create an atmosphere in which celestial events feel interconnected, each one echoing the others. As the section deepens, we explore the parallels between cosmic synchrony and human synchrony. Just as the sun and moon find rare moments of alignment, societies, too, experience periods when cultural, technological, and psychological trends converge. Transitions in communication, worldview, identity, and belief often occur when external events, wars, innovations, discoveries, intersect with internal human readiness for change. The cosmic synchrony of the 2025-2030s serves as a symbolic mirror for these shifts, reflecting humanity's emerging questions and uncertainties. We then turn to historical patterns. Although the sun and moon do not control human events, history shows that synchrony windows have often coincided with major turning points. Periods of dense celestial activity tend to appear near cultural renaissances, philosophical awakenings, and transformations in collective identity. Again, the aim is not to imply causation but to highlight resonance. Humans are pattern-seeking beings. When the sky behaves differently, people behave differently, not because they are controlled, but because they are inspired, startled, or awakened to the scale of reality. In this cinematic exploration, we imagine viewers standing at different points throughout the upcoming decade. A solar eclipse darkens the world, casting cities into momentary twilight. A lunar eclipse paints the moon blood red while people gather on rooftops, beaches, and open fields. Auroras shimmer unpredictably above regions that rarely see them. The moon rises from an extreme northern point, catching people by surprise. These events punctuate life like poetic stanzas, marking time with light and shadow. Each moment becomes a reminder that humanity exists within a vast and interconnected system. This section also highlights how cosmic synchrony influences mood and imagination. When celestial cycles converge, humans naturally ask deeper questions. They reflect on time, purpose, connection, and change. Artists create differently. Scientists search differently. Communities gather differently. Even people who never look at the sky feel subtle shifts through media coverage, global attention, or the emotional reactions of others. Synchrony becomes a cultural undercurrent, a gentle wave that moves through society. As we explore this emotional landscape, the narrative emphasizes that synchrony is not inherently positive or negative. It is simply a state of heightened alignment. What humans do within that alignment is their choice. Some may feel inspired, others unsettled. Some may turn inward, others outward. The sky provides a backdrop, humanity writes the story. The sun and moon do not demand action, but they invite awareness. And in moments of awareness, transformation becomes possible. Approaching the end of this expanded section, we prepare the viewer for the next chapter by focusing on the psychological impact of synchrony. When people witness eclipse after eclipse, when the moon behaves unnaturally, when the sun's activity peaks, a sense of anticipation grows. Not fear, anticipation. A feeling that the ordinary world is being subtly rearranged, opening space for new possibilities. This is why synchrony windows often coincide with periods of change, not because the cosmos dictates events, but because the cosmos influences perception, and perception influences action. The section closes with a reflective transition. The dance between sun and moon becomes a metaphor for humanity's own search for balance, between logic and emotion, chaos and order, past and future. As these cycles overlap, they remind us that the universe is structured, rhythmic, and interconnected. The 2025 to 2030 synchrony invites humanity to listen, observe, and reflect. And in the next chapter, we delve into the heart of this psychological experience, how celestial events shape human thought and emotion in profound, unexpected ways. For as long as humans have existed, the sky has shaped our inner world as much as the physical one. Even today, in an age saturated with screens, satellites, and electric light, celestial events carry a peculiar emotional weight. People pause. They gather. They look upward with expressions that belong to no other moment, expressions of awe, vulnerability, curiosity, and something deeper that words often fail to capture. When the sun darkens, or the moon reddens, or the horizon glows with an unexpected aurora, something ancient stirs in the human psyche. This section explores that mysterious psychological response, the way celestial phenomena awaken instincts older than civilization, reminding us of our fragility, our wonder, and our shared place beneath the cosmos. Modern humans often feel distant from nature, yet the brain retains evolutionary patterns shaped across tens of thousands of years. The rising and setting of the sun once determined survival. The phases of the moon once guided hunting, migration, and ritual. Our circadian rhythms still synchronize with daylight. Our moods still shift with light intensity. Deep within our neural architecture lies the memory that the heavens matter. So when something unusual happens in the sky, the subconscious reacts before the conscious mind understands. A solar eclipse might trigger goosebumps. A blood moon might stir unease or fascination. These reactions are not irrational, they are inherited. Psychologists describe awe as a blend of fear and admiration, an emotion that arises when we encounter something vast, overwhelming, or beyond our normal frame of reference. Celestial events create perfect conditions for awe because they combine familiarity with unpredictability. We expect the sun to stay bright, the moon to stay pale, the stars to stay fixed. When these expectations break, even momentarily, the mind expands. Awe rewires thought patterns, increasing openness, reducing self-focus, and fostering feelings of connectedness. People often describe feeling small during sky events, not insignificant, but part of something greater. This shift in perspective can have profound effects. Research shows that awe increases prosocial behavior, creativity, and patience. Ancient cultures instinctively understood this. They used sky events as moments of communal bonding. Communities came together during eclipses, forming shared narratives that strengthened identity and unity. Even today, when millions gather to watch a total solar eclipse, strangers share glasses, compliments, and conversations. For a few minutes, social boundaries dissolve. People cheer, cry, or fall silent in ways that reflect not individual personality but collective psychological resonance. The psychological effect of celestial events also interacts with uncertainty. Humans crave stability, and the sky, predictable for most of our lives, represents the ultimate consistency. When that consistency is disrupted, even briefly, it opens a space for introspection. The mind becomes more receptive to questioning. What does this mean? Why am I here? What else could change? These are not scientific questions, they are existential ones. Celestial disruptions remind people that the universe is dynamic, and that life, too, is subject to forces beyond personal control. This can inspire fear, but it can also inspire transformation. During synchrony windows like the 2025 to 2030 decade, when multiple sky events unfold in close succession, these psychological effects accumulate. The brain experiences repeated moments of surprise, awe, and reflection. Over time, these moments influence culture, art becomes more introspective, conversations become more philosophical, collective imagination expands. This is not speculation. History shows that periods of intensified celestial activity have coincided with bursts of creativity, spiritual questioning, and shifts in worldview. People do not merely observe the sky, they interpret it. And interpretation shapes action. As we explore this deeper, we consider how celestial events influence dreams and emotions. Full moons have long been associated with heightened sensitivity, disrupted sleep, or intensified emotions, not because of supernatural forces, but because moonlight affects melatonin cycles, and anticipation affects the mind. Eclipses, in contrast, affect not sleep but perception. The world looks different during an eclipse, sharper, colder, surreal. This sensory disruption embeds itself in memory, creating a mental marker that remains vivid for decades. People who witnessed a total solar eclipse often remember where they stood, who they were with, and what they felt more clearly than major life events. This emotional vividness hints at why celestial events have always held symbolic power. We also consider the psychological duality of solar and lunar phenomena. Solar events trigger alertness, excitement, even tension. They are dramatic, sudden, and impossible to ignore. Lunar events, especially lunar eclipses, evoke introspection. The moon's changes are gradual, dreamlike, tinged with emotional depth. When these two types of events occur in close proximity, the human psyche experiences a blend of energies, a dance of outward focus and inward reflection. This duality shapes not only individual responses but collective mood, influencing cultural trends in subtle but measurable ways. In the modern world, celestial events also highlight a rare phenomenon: collective mindfulness. At most times, humanity is scattered, each person absorbed in personal concerns and digital distractions. But during events like eclipses, meteor showers, or supermoons, global attention narrows onto a single phenomenon. Millions of eyes, across cities and continents, look upward at the same moment. This synchronized attention creates psychological unity, a sense of planetary togetherness that no technology or ideology can replicate. For a brief moment, humanity remembers that it shares a home beneath the same sky. As we approach the final part of this expanded section, we reflect on the psychological threshold humanity now stands upon. The coming decade's cosmic synchrony is not significant merely because of the events themselves, but because of the psychological field they create. Humans are more likely to reflect, to question, to imagine, and to evolve when they experience awe. And awe arises naturally during periods of celestial convergence. The sky becomes a catalyst for re-evaluating priorities, values, and the direction of humanity's story. The section closes with a gentle transition toward the next chapter. If celestial events influence the human mind so deeply, what about the planet itself? Does Earth respond to solar and lunar cycles in ways that echo human emotion, shifts in weather, magnetic fields, or climate patterns? As the documentary continues, we move from the inner world to the outer world, exploring the subtle environmental correlations that accompany cosmic synchrony. Humanity stands at a psychological threshold, but the Earth, too, exists within the same cosmic rhythm. While the sun and moon profoundly shape human psychology, their influence extends far beyond emotion. Earth itself responds to their rhythms in subtle yet undeniable ways. Climate, tides, atmospheric behavior, and magnetic fields, all of these fluctuate according to solar and lunar cycles. In this section, we explore the environmental echoes of celestial synchrony, tracing the threads that connect cosmic activity to Earth's vast, interlocking systems. This is not a story of dramatic catastrophes or mystical forces, but of delicate correlations, patterns that reveal how deeply our planet is woven into the cosmic fabric. We begin with the sun, the primary energy source for Earth. Nearly every climatic process, winds, rainfall patterns, ocean currents, draws its power directly or indirectly from solar radiation. When the sun enters a maximum phase, as it will during the mid-2025 decade, its output doesn't dramatically increase in terms of heat, but its magnetic and energetic activity does. Solar flares and coronal mass ejections release charged particles that interact with Earth's magnetosphere, subtly influencing atmospheric chemistry. These interactions can affect the distribution of ozone, alter the behavior of the jet stream, and even shift the timing of certain weather patterns. Scientists studying paleoclimate records have found evidence that periods of heightened solar activity often correlate with unusual environmental behavior. Sometimes they coincide with warmer regional temperatures, sometimes they align with disruptions in rainfall cycles. Again, the emphasis is not on deterministic control. Solar activity does not dictate climate, but rather on subtle nudges that ripple through complex systems. The Earth, like humanity, does not remain unaffected when the sun's pulse intensifies. The next layer of this environmental narrative involves the moon, whose gravitational pull shapes one of Earth's most ancient and consistent rhythms, the tides. During a major lunar standstill, which is unfolding in 2025 to 2026, the moon reaches more extreme declinations. This means that the tidal forces it exerts also reach their extremes. High tides become slightly higher. Low tides become slightly lower. Tidal ranges stretch in ways that coastal communities, fishermen, and animals instinctively notice. For most ecosystems, these extremes are manageable, even beneficial, as they create opportunities for renewal. But for vulnerable coastlines, small changes in tidal behavior can interact with rising sea levels to create temporary stress. Yet the moon's influence does not end with tides. Its gravitational rhythm interacts with atmospheric tides as well, vast waves of pressure that move through the atmosphere similarly to ocean tides. During standstill years, these atmospheric waves can shift in pattern and intensity, influencing cloud formation, weather oscillations, and even long-range wind currents. Such effects are rarely dramatic enough to make headlines, but they contribute to the subtle tapestry of environmental behavior that scientists continue to study with growing curiosity. We then introduce a compelling question: what happens when solar and lunar influences overlap in time, as they will in the 2025 to 2030 decade? Although research in this area is still evolving, scientists have noted periods where synchrony between solar cycles and lunar cycles aligns with noticeable environmental anomalies. These could include shifts in rainfall distribution, changes in storm frequency, or unusual patterns in oceanic circulation. While these correlations do not imply direct causation, they reveal that Earth's systems are sensitive to the timing of cosmic forces, especially when those forces peak simultaneously. Consider the El Niño, Southern Oscillation, one of Earth's most important climate phenomena. Some studies suggest that its timing may occasionally interact with solar cycles, though results are debated and nuanced. Similarly, polar vortex behavior and monsoon intensity have shown subtle correlations with solar activity in certain decades. Meanwhile, the Moon's long-term cycles have been linked to patterns in sea level rise, coastal erosion, and even biological timing in marine species. When these solar and lunar cycles overlap, the combined influence can create a background environment that feels transitional, neither predictable nor chaotic, but unusually dynamic. This environmental dynamism mirrors the psychological dynamism explored in earlier sections. Just as the cosmic synchrony of the coming decade may influence human moods and cultural patterns, it may also create a subtle environmental backdrop that feels like a shift in the Earth's own seasonal tempo. Not a crisis, not a prophecy, simply a rhythm change, like a deep breath taken by the planet itself. To bring this idea to life, we move into imagery. Picture a polar sky illuminated by auroras more vibrant than in previous years, their colors pulsing with solar energy. Imagine coastal regions experiencing tides that rise unusually high beneath a standstill moon, creating temporary flooding in marshes where new species find opportunity. Visualize weather patterns shifting unpredictably as atmospheric chemistry responds to the sun's magnetic storms. These scenes are not apocalyptic. They are part of the planet's natural response to cosmic rhythms, responses that humans, with all our technology, are only beginning to understand. We then broaden the lens to include the Earth's magnetic field. During solar maximum, the magnetosphere becomes more active, expanding and contracting in response to incoming solar energy. These fluctuations can influence animal navigation systems, particularly in species that rely on magnetic orientation, birds, whales, turtles, even insects. During such periods, scientists often observe unusual migration patterns or temporary disorientation in certain animals. These effects are generally mild, but they reveal how closely life on Earth is attuned to the invisible energies that flow between sun and planet. The lunar standstill, too, plays a role in biological behavior. Animals that rely on moonlight for reproduction, hunting, or migration may experience altered patterns during standstill years. Certain coral species, for example, coordinate spawning with lunar cycles. Nocturnal predators time their movements according to moonlight intensity. Sea turtles orient themselves based on the moon's position. When the moon's path reaches its extremes, these rhythms expand or contract, creating an unusual biological year, one that may echo the shifting emotional landscape humans experience during the same period. As this section deepens, we highlight a central theme: Earth is not separate from the cosmos. It is shaped by it. The coming decade's synchrony will not rewrite climate patterns or overturn ecological systems, but it will create a subtle environmental resonance, a feeling that something in the Earth's rhythms has shifted. These changes may be faint, perceived more through accumulated observations than singular events. Yet they contribute to the sense that the 2025 to 2030 years are a period of adjustment, both psychologically and ecologically. Approaching the end of the section, we return to the philosophical framing. If the sun affects the atmosphere, and the moon affects the tides, and both cycles overlap during the portal years, then perhaps celestial synchrony is not merely symbolic. Perhaps it is a real, measurable alignment that influences Earth's systems in small but meaningful ways. The planet, like humanity, responds to the sky, not by coincidence, but by evolutionary design. The section closes by setting the stage for what comes next. If cosmic cycles shape both human consciousness and environmental behavior, what does history tell us about how societies respond during such transitional periods? In the next chapter, we move from Earth's physical responses to humanity's social responses, tracing how past civilizations experience turning points during similar cosmic rhythms. The story of the sky is also the story of humanity, and as the cycles converge once more, history prepares to echo itself. Throughout the long arc of human civilization, certain decades stand out as pivotal, moments when societies shifted direction, reinvented themselves, or collapsed under the weight of new realities. These transitional eras were often marked by cultural upheaval, technological breakthroughs, migrations, revolutions, or spiritual awakenings. Yet when we look closely, we find a curious pattern. Many of these turning points occurred during periods when cosmic rhythms were also in flux. Not because the heavens dictated human behavior, but because humans interpret change differently when the sky itself seems to be moving through unusual cycles. This section explores those historical parallels, moments when celestial synchrony aligned with social transformation, offering clues for understanding the 2025 to 2030 decade ahead. We begin far back, in the early Bronze Age. Around 2000 BCE, many ancient societies underwent rapid transitions: the rise of urban centers in Mesopotamia, the early dynastic shifts in Egypt, the formation of new trade networks across Eurasia. This era coincides with a cluster of celestial anomalies noted in early astronomical records: unusual eclipses, solar events, and shifts in the moon's cycle that ancient astronomers documented with both fear and fascination. For these societies, sky events were not isolated phenomena, they were signals that change was unfolding both above and below. As kingdoms rose and fell, as migrations expanded across continents, humans believed they were acting within a cosmic rhythm. Fast forward to the classical period. Around 500 to 400 BCE, a profound philosophical awakening rippled across civilizations. Greece saw the rise of Socrates, Plato, and the foundations of Western thought. India experienced the birth of major spiritual traditions like Buddhism and Jainism. China entered the era of Confucius and Laozi, forming the basis of Eastern philosophical identity. This global intellectual blossoming did not occur randomly. It emerged during a period of unusual solar and lunar observations recorded by early astronomers. Eclipses, comets, and solar anomalies were widely interpreted as signs urging humanity toward introspection and order. Whether symbolic or coincidental, the sky became the backdrop for a shift in human understanding, a movement toward ethics, self-reflection, and structured thought. Then we move to the first millennium CE, where similar patterns appear. Around 700 to 800 CE, major civilizations underwent dramatic transitions: the rise of the Abbasid Caliphate, the flourishing of Tang dynasty China, the cultural expansions of the Maya, and the early formation of European kingdoms. These shifts align with known solar activity anomalies and cycles recorded through ice core samples and ancient astronomical archives. While the causal links are unclear, the correlation reveals a timeless truth: when people sense that the universe is in motion, they become more aware of their own momentum. Periods of political consolidation, artistic innovation, and philosophical exploration often unfold against a backdrop of heightened celestial awareness. Another powerful example arises in the late medieval period. Around the 1400s, Europe experienced a dramatic cultural transformation that would later be known as the Renaissance. The revival of scientific curiosity, artistic experimentation, and humanistic philosophy began during decades marked by intense sky-watching, rare eclipse patterns, bright comets, and the early stirrings of solar observations. The sky was not the cause of the Renaissance, but it played a symbolic role. Artists used solar halos and celestial motifs in their work. Scholars questioned the nature of the cosmos, and in doing so, questioned everything else. Celestial anomalies served as metaphors for a world rediscovering its potential. Moving into the modern era, patterns become even more striking. The late 1700s, an era of revolution, independence movements, and intellectual upheaval, coincided with recorded periods of unusual solar behavior. The American Revolution, the French Revolution, and major shifts in global power unfolded in a psychological environment shaped by both earthly conflict and heightened celestial curiosity. Enlightenment thinkers looked to the stars as symbols of rational order and natural law. Telescopes improved. Astronomy flourished. The desire to understand the universe paralleled the desire to reshape society. In the 20th century, similar correlations reappear. The 1960s, a decade of cultural revolution, civil rights movements, and scientific breakthroughs, occurred during a period of strong solar activity and intense public fascination with the Moon. The space race culminated in the Moon landing of 1969, a moment when humanity quite literally reached upward toward the cosmos. This achievement was not simply technological, it was psychological. It changed how humans saw themselves. It revealed Earth as fragile, unified, and suspended in the cosmic void. That single image, Earth rising over the Moon's horizon, reshaped environmental awareness, global identity, and collective imagination. By examining these historical transitions, the section lays the foundation for understanding why the 2025 to 2030 decades feel significant. The patterns of the past suggest that when cosmic cycles reach moments of synchrony, societies often enter periods of re-evaluation and transformation, not because the cosmos forces change, but because humans interpret cosmic rhythms as invitations to rethink their paths. Celestial events awaken curiosity, destabilize assumptions, and inspire new visions for the future. We then shift to exploring psychological readiness during transitional decades. Humans are more pliable during times of uncertainty. They look for meaning in patterns. They project hopes and fears onto the sky. When a solar eclipse darkens the land or a red moon rises, people respond with heightened emotion. Leaders use these moments to rally unity or instill caution. Artists use them as metaphors. Philosophers use them as prompts for deeper questioning. The more celestial anomalies appear within a short period, the more likely societies are to reinterpret old beliefs and adopt new narratives. The 2025 to 2030 window, with its compressed series of sky events, may create exactly this kind of cognitive opening. We then illustrate how transitional decades often involve the blending of old and new systems. Technology accelerates. Cultural norms shift. Generational identities collide. These changes frequently coincide with symbolic sky events that represent endings, beginnings, or shifting boundaries. Eclipses symbolize interruption. Solar maxima symbolize intensity. Lunar standstills symbolize expansion. When these symbols appear together in nature, societies often mirror this convergence, old systems giving way to emergent ones, established norms stretching to new extremes. As the section approaches its close, we reflect on the humility that history teaches. Civilizations rise and fall, yet the sky remains steady in its cycles. Humans interpret these cycles in ways that shape their responses to change. By recognizing these historical patterns, we gain perspective on the decade ahead. The 2025 to 2030 synchrony does not predict specific events, but it does suggest that humanity is entering one of those rare windows where external and internal rhythms align, encouraging transformation. The section concludes by setting the stage for the next chapter. If past societies responded to cosmic synchrony with cultural shifts, what does this mean for our modern era, an age defined by technology, artificial intelligence, and communication networks that span the globe? In the following section, we explore how the digital age interacts with ancient cosmic rhythms, and how the sun and moon continue to shape human innovation even today. For most of human history, the sun and moon shaped life directly. They dictated when people slept, hunted, planted, and traveled. Today, that relationship feels distant, our lives illuminated not by celestial bodies but by screens, LEDs, and electricity. Yet, even in this hyper-connected, digital age, the ancient cycles of the sun and moon continue to influence humanity in ways both hidden and profound. This section explores the intersection between cosmic rhythms and modern technology, revealing that the oldest forces in the universe still guide the newest inventions of the human mind. We begin with the sun, not as a symbol, but as a physical engine of technology. Every device humans use, from smartphones to satellites, ultimately depends on energy derived from solar processes. Solar panels translate sunlight into electricity. Batteries store solar-derived power. Even fossil fuels are ancient sunlight trapped in organic matter. The digital world, for all its apparent detachment from nature, is built upon the sun's energy. And during solar maximum, when the sun becomes more active, the infrastructure we rely on becomes more vulnerable. Solar flares can disrupt radio transmissions, GPS systems, internet cables resting on the ocean floor, and even power grids. The more dependent we become on technology, the more sensitive we become to the sun's moods, an irony that reconnects modern society to ancient skywatchers who once feared solar disturbances for entirely different reasons. We then shift to the moon's influence, which may seem less obvious in the technological era. Yet, its gravitational pull drives ocean tides essential for marine navigation, coastal engineering, and climate modeling. Supercomputers that simulate Earth's climate must incorporate lunar cycles for accuracy. Space exploration relies on the moon's orbit, gravitational field, and reflective light. Even our biological rhythms, sleep patterns, hormonal cycles, and mood, subtly shift with lunar phases, influencing everything from hospital admissions to crime statistics to digital behavior patterns tracked by online platforms. The moon shapes the emotional atmosphere of billions of people, and those emotions, in turn, shape online trends, consumer behavior, and technological engagement. As we explore these subtle interactions, we realize that technology has not separated humanity from cosmic cycles, it has made us more sensitive to them. Satellite networks orbit Earth in predictable patterns, vulnerable to solar storms. Undersea fiber optic cables stretch across oceans, affected by shifting currents and tidal forces. Power grids depend on stability in Earth's magnetic field. Even artificial intelligence models train on datasets that reflect cultural mood swings, many of which emerge during periods of heightened celestial activity. The digital world is a mirror of the human world, and the human world is still deeply influenced by the sun and moon. This section then explores the cultural symbolism of light and energy in the digital age. The sun, once revered as the source of life, has now become a symbol of renewable power, sustainability, and technological hope. Solar energy fields gleam across deserts, rooftops, and farmlands, modern temples to the star that sustains us. The moon, once seen as a mystical companion, is now a destination for exploration. Space agencies plan lunar bases, mining operations, and long-term scientific outposts. Humanity, for the first time, is preparing to inhabit the world of myth. The moon's surface, silent, ancient, and untouched, will soon host the footprints of engineers, researchers, and robots guided by satellites and AI systems. And yet, despite this technological advance, the emotional experience of celestial events remains unchanged. People gather for eclipses with the same awe that ancient cultures felt. They watch lunar standstills, meteor showers, and auroras not through fear but through fascination. Millions share these experiences live on social media, turning cosmic events into global rituals. The digital age has not diluted celestial influence, it has amplified it, broadcasting moments of wonder to billions in real time. We then consider how cosmic cycles shape the rhythm of innovation itself. Periods of intense solar activity often coincide with bursts of creativity and technological breakthroughs. Whether through coincidence or psychological resonance, humans tend to innovate more boldly during times when the natural world behaves unpredictably. Solar maxima historically align with scientific revolutions, industrial advancements, and shifts in global communication systems. The coming decade, marked by both solar and lunar extremities, may become another era of accelerated technological evolution. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and space exploration will likely interact with cosmic phenomena in direct ways. AI relies on stable electrical infrastructure vulnerable to solar storms. Quantum systems depend on precise electromagnetic conditions. Spacecraft navigating between Earth and Moon must account for gravitational fluctuations, radiation bursts, and solar winds. The more advanced technology becomes, the more deeply it must harmonize with cosmic forces. This creates an unexpected parallel between ancient and modern knowledge, both recognize the necessity of reading the sky. As the section deepens, we highlight an important philosophical point: the digital age has resurrected humanity's ancient impulse to interpret celestial events. Not through myth, but through data. Scientists track solar activity with satellites. Astronomers observe lunar standstill behavior using high-resolution imaging. Climate researchers integrate cosmic cycles into long-term models. What ancient people interpreted as divine messages, modern humans interpret as environmental variables. The sky still guides us, only the language has changed. Yet, even with scientific clarity, the emotional essence remains the same. People feel different when they witness a solar flare lighting up the poles, or when the moon rises at its extreme standstill angle. Technology may explain these events, but it cannot diminish their impact on the human psyche. If anything, the digital world amplifies these emotions, creating collective experiences that transcend borders. A solar eclipse seen by thousands at Stonehenge can be shared in real time with millions watching from their phones. The cosmos becomes a shared digital experience, uniting humanity in ways that ancient civilizations could only dream of. Approaching the end of this expanded section, we recognize the central theme: cosmic cycles are not relics of ancient thought, they continue to shape the world, both emotionally and technologically. As the 2025 to 2030 Synchrony approaches, humanity stands at an intersection of past and future. The sun's heightened activity influences our electricity and satellites. The moon's extremes influence our tides, rhythms, and space missions. Eclipses influence our imagination, bringing people together in moments of awe. The section closes with a transition toward the next chapter, where we explore not the bright promise of technology, but its vulnerability. If the digital age depends so heavily on cosmic stability, what happens when the sun becomes turbulent and the moon's rhythms intensify? The next section reveals the shadow side of solar power, the risks, the fragility, and the challenges humanity must confront as we move deeper into this era of cosmic synchrony. For all the warmth and brilliance the sun provides, its cycles also carry a quieter, more unpredictable side. During solar maximum, when its magnetic fields twist into unstable knots and erupt outward, humanity faces a subtle but growing vulnerability, one that ancient civilizations never had to consider. Our world, now wrapped in satellites, electricity, fiber networks, and delicate circuitry, is far more sensitive to the sun's storms than any generation before us. This section explores the shadow side of solar activity, the risks, the fragilities, and the ways in which humanity must learn to coexist with a star that can be both nurturing and disruptive. The sun's most dramatic expressions are solar flares and coronal mass ejections, massive bursts of radiation and charged particles that travel across space at extraordinary speeds. When directed toward Earth, these phenomena interact with the planet's magnetic field, causing geomagnetic storms. The effects can range from beautiful auroras to significant technological disturbances. In the past, such storms illuminated the skies and perhaps inspired myth, but they caused little harm. Today, the stakes are different. A single powerful solar storm has the potential to disrupt communication networks, degrade satellites, interfere with GPS navigation, and stress electrical grids. Modern society, deeply interconnected and electrically dependent, is more exposed than ever to the sun's volatile behavior. To understand this vulnerability, imagine the invisible scaffolding that supports modern life. Around the planet, thousands of satellites orbit in a delicate balance, enabling navigation, communication, banking, weather forecasting, and global internet connectivity. These satellites are built to endure hostile environments, but intense solar radiation can damage their electronics, degrade their sensors, or push them off course. On Earth, high-frequency radio communications, used by pilots, emergency responders, and maritime vessels, can become unreliable during strong solar flares. Ground-based power grids, especially at high latitudes, may experience surges as geomagnetic currents pass through the planet's surface. These surges, if unmanaged, can damage transformers and lead to wide-scale outages. Yet the purpose of this section is not to instill fear. It is to reveal the complexity of humanity's relationship with the cosmos. The sun is not an enemy, nor is it unpredictable in a chaotic sense. Solar cycles are regular, measurable, and well-studied. The challenge lies in the scale of modern infrastructure. The very technologies that elevate us, globalized communication, instant connectivity, digital economies, also amplify our exposure to the sun's fluctuations. This duality mirrors the broader theme of the documentary, ancient cycles interacting with modern systems, and humanity navigating the balance between vulnerability and resilience. As we explore these ideas, we step into the emotional dimension. Humans instinctively trust the sun. It rises every day, providing warmth, light, and life. When we learn that this familiar star can send storms across space that affect our grids and satellites, there is a quiet unease. It reminds us that our technological world, for all its sophistication, is fragile, resting on foundations shaped by forces far beyond human control. This awareness does not lead to despair, rather, it invites humility. It urges us to remember that we live in a cosmic environment, not apart from it. History offers examples of the sun's more disruptive moments. In 1859, the Carrington event, a massive geomagnetic storm, lit the skies with auroras visible near the equator and caused telegraph systems worldwide to malfunction. Operators reported sparks flying from the equipment, papers catching fire, and messages transmitting even when power was disconnected. If such an event occurred today, the consequences would be far more widespread. Not catastrophic in an apocalyptic sense, but deeply inconvenient, expensive, and disruptive to global infrastructure. Another major storm in 1989 knocked out power to millions in Quebec within seconds. These events remind us that the sun's power extends deep into our technological ecosystem. During the upcoming solar maximum, humanity will enter a period of heightened vigilance. Engineers will monitor grid stability. Space agencies will track solar activity and issue warnings. Airlines may reroute certain flights to avoid radiation spikes near the poles. Satellite operators will adjust orbital paths to compensate for atmospheric expansion caused by solar heating. These protective measures reveal something hopeful: humanity is not helpless. We have knowledge, tools, and strategies to weather solar storms. The challenge is awareness, preparation, and adaptability, not fear. In the cinematic narrative of this section, we imagine a moment during the decade: a strong solar storm lights up auroras over cities that rarely see them. People step outside, amazed by the shimmering sky. Meanwhile, technicians work behind the scenes to stabilize grids, correct satellite drift, and maintain communication channels. The moment becomes a fusion of beauty and tension, capturing the essence of living under a dynamic star. It is not a crisis, it is a reminder of Earth's place in a living, breathing cosmic system. As the section deepens, we reflect on how vulnerability can inspire resilience. The risks posed by solar maxima push humanity toward innovation: better shielding for satellites, more robust electrical grids, improved forecasting models, and international coordination to protect infrastructure. These advancements echo the adaptability of ancient skywatchers, who learned to read the heavens and respond with ritual and preparation. Modern society responds with science and engineering, but the underlying impulse is the same: an acknowledgement that cosmic rhythms matter. We also explore the emotional paradox. While solar storms threaten our networks, they also generate some of nature's most stunning displays. Auroras, once feared as omens, have become symbols of wonder and connection. Photographers chase them. Travelers seek them. People stand beneath glowing skies feeling awe, gratitude, and humility. This duality defines the sun's shadow side: vulnerability intertwined with beauty, risk intertwined with revelation. Toward the end of this expanded section, we emphasize that the sun's unpredictability is not a flaw, it is part of the universe's natural dynamism. Humanity's task is to understand, adapt, and coexist. Solar maxima serve as reminders that progress requires awareness, not complacency. They encourage societies to strengthen their infrastructure, update their systems, and respect the cosmic forces that surround us. The section closes with a transition to the next chapter. If solar maxima bring tension, they also bring opportunity. History shows that periods of heightened solar activity often coincide with bursts of creativity, innovation, and spiritual exploration. The next section will explore this pattern, the Renaissance effect, revealing how cosmic intensity can ignite human imagination and inspire new eras of cultural flourishing. Throughout history, periods of great celestial activity have often coincided with surges of human creativity, innovation, and cultural rebirth. This pattern, though subtle and complex, suggests that cosmic rhythms may influence not only environmental and psychological cycles, but also the collective imagination. When the sky behaves differently, when eclipses cluster, when the sun intensifies, when the moon reaches its extremes, human societies often enter phases of artistic expression, philosophical questioning, and inventive breakthroughs. This section explores that remarkable pattern, the Renaissance effect, a phenomenon in which cosmic alignment mirrors creative awakening. We begin with the symbolic connection between celestial change and human inspiration. For ancient skywatchers, unusual astronomical events served as reminders that the universe was alive with mystery. This sense of cosmic drama often translated into artistic and cultural expression. A solar eclipse or lunar standstill could spark new myths, rituals, or architectural projects. But beyond symbolism, there is something deeper, something psychological. Awe expands human thought. When people witness rare or beautiful cosmic events, the mind instinctively stretches beyond the ordinary. Creativity thrives in that expanded mental space. Consider the Great Renaissance of the 14th to 16th centuries. This era of artistic brilliance, scientific inquiry, and philosophical innovation coincided with periods of heightened celestial curiosity. Comets, eclipses, and unusual planetary alignments captured the imaginations of scholars and artists. Thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were not merely observers of the Earth, they were students of the sky. Their notebooks overflowed with sketches of shadows, light angles, sunlit geometry, and lunar reflections. Even though they lacked modern tools, their awareness of celestial patterns shaped their artistic expression and scientific curiosity. This is not to suggest that cosmic events caused the Renaissance, but that they contributed to a cultural atmosphere ripe for transformation. When humanity feels connected to the vastness of the universe, creativity naturally flourishes. This pattern appears again across history. The Enlightenment era blossomed during periods of major solar and lunar observations. The scientific revolution accelerated when improved telescopes revealed cosmic wonders. Romanticism, an artistic movement defined by emotion and awe, emerged as humanity grappled with new astronomical discoveries. As we step into the modern era, the pattern continues. The space race of the mid-20th century was not merely technological, it was cultural. The desire to reach the moon inspired filmmakers, musicians, painters, and writers. The images of Earth taken from lunar orbit altered global consciousness, sparking environmental and philosophical movements. Cosmic exploration ignited human creativity in ways no purely terrestrial event could. With this historical foundation established, we turn to the upcoming cosmic synchrony of the 2025 to 2030 decade. This period will bring a dense concentration of eclipses, solar activity, and lunar extremes. While the scientific effects are measurable, the creative effects are subtle but powerful. When millions of people witness events like a total solar eclipse or a major lunar standstill, collective imagination stirs. Ideas begin to move differently. Art reflects new themes. Technology evolves with renewed vision. Creativity thrives when the world feels unfamiliar, when the sky behaves in ways that break the monotony of daily life. In this decade of synchrony, artists may find renewed inspiration in celestial imagery, shadows, rings of fire, blood moons, shifting tides, auroras illuminating unexpected skies. Writers and philosophers may delve deeper into themes of time, cycles, and transformation. Scientists and engineers, confronted with the sun's influence on modern infrastructure, may innovate solutions that shape future generations. Cosmic events remind humanity of beauty and fragility, sparking the creative impulse to interpret, protect, and imagine. This section then explores the psychological mechanism behind this phenomenon. Creativity thrives when the mind experiences a balance of uncertainty and awe. Celestial events provide both. Eclipses disrupt familiarity, prompting reflection. Solar maxima heighten awareness, demanding adaptation. Lunar extremes stir emotion and introspection. The brain, confronted with these inputs, becomes more receptive to new ideas. Neural pathways loosen their rigidity. Imagination awakens. The external sky becomes a catalyst for internal exploration. We then imagine scenes from the upcoming decade, an artist watching a red moon rise at its standstill angle, sketching the moment into a future masterpiece. A musician inspired by the pulsing patterns of auroras, weaving solar rhythms into new compositions. A filmmaker capturing the silent darkness of a total eclipse, using it as metaphor for transformation. A scientist modeling atmospheric responses to solar storms, developing new technologies that reshape energy infrastructure. These are not fantasies, they are echoes of patterns that have appeared again and again throughout history. Creativity during cosmic alignment is not simply artistic, it is cultural. Entire societies begin to question old assumptions. Young generations explore identity through new symbols. Researchers challenge traditional boundaries. Inventors take risks. Movements form. During synchrony windows, humanity often enters a period of accelerated imagination, a collective re-envisioning of what is possible. The 2025 to 2030 decade may become one such moment, not because the universe demands it, but because humans respond to cosmic rhythm with curiosity and possibility. As this section nears its close, we reflect on a profound truth: creativity is the human response to mystery. When the sky shifts, when shadows fall at unexpected angles, when light behaves in unfamiliar ways, the mind seeks meaning. Art, science, philosophy, these emerge from the desire to translate cosmic wonder into human expression. The Renaissance pattern is not a coincidence, it is a reflection of human nature. The section concludes by gently leading into the next chapter, where the focus shifts from collective creativity to individual experience. If cosmic cycles inspire societies to imagine, what do they awaken within each person? What inner transformations occur when individuals witness celestial anomalies? The next section explores the intimate, personal side of cosmic influence, the emotional, psychological, and spiritual journey each person undergoes beneath the shifting sky. Beneath the grand sweep of history and culture, beneath the scientific explanations and philosophical reflections, lies a quieter story, the story of the individual. While civilizations respond collectively to cosmic events, each person also experiences these moments in uniquely intimate ways. A single eclipse, a brilliant aurora, a strange rising moon, these can become turning points in private timelines, shaping memory, mood, and meaning. This section explores how celestial cycles intersect with human lives on the most personal level, becoming markers in the internal landscapes we all navigate. For many people, the first time they witness a solar or lunar eclipse becomes a memory that never fades. Even decades later, they can recall where they were standing, who they were with, what the air felt like, and what thoughts surfaced as the sky changed. These memories linger not because the events were scientific, but because they awakened an emotional response, a feeling of standing at the threshold between the ordinary and the eternal. Celestial events compress time, making the everyday world feel suddenly fragile and wondrous. In those moments, individuals often confront questions they do not normally ask. Who am I in the vastness of this universe? What am I doing with my limited time? What truly matters? The moon, with its monthly rhythm, becomes a companion in personal cycles. People track their moods by its phases, find comfort in its predictability, or feel a tug of nostalgia when it rises full and bright. Some use the lunar calendar to mark creative projects, meditation practices, or emotional reflections. Others feel the new moon stirring restlessness or the full moon awakening clarity. These rhythms may not be magical in a literal sense, but psychologically, they offer structure, moments to pause, reset, or realign. In this way, the lunar cycle becomes a quiet guide through the complexities of personal life. During major lunar standstills, such as the one unfolding in 2025 to 2026, these emotional responses may intensify. The moon's unusual angles can create a sense of unfamiliarity, an image of the world slightly shifted. For people sensitive to atmosphere and symbolism, these moments can feel like invitations to change perspective. A moon rising far north or south may spark memories of childhood, bring forgotten dreams to the surface, or inspire new intentions. The sky becomes a mirror for the inner landscape, reflecting thoughts and feelings long buried by routine. Similarly, individuals often respond deeply to solar phenomena. A solar eclipse can feel like a symbolic reset, light disappearing, then returning as if the world is cleansing itself. Some people describe these moments as spiritual, others as emotional, and still others as transformative. The temporary darkness creates space for introspection, while the sudden return of light evokes renewal. Even those who watch from afar through screens or news reports feel the ripple. Human consciousness is highly sensitive to shared awe, and solar events create global moments of attention that seep into individual mood and imagination. Auroras, too, hold powerful emotional resonance. Watching curtains of shifting light ripple across the night sky can evoke tears, joy, or wordless wonder. People who witness auroras often describe the experience as life-changing, not because anything in their external life shifts, but because something in their perception softens or expands. The Earth's magnetic field, stirred by solar energy, creates beauty that speaks to the subconscious. In these moments, the boundary between the cosmic and the personal dissolves. This section also explores how cosmic events intersect with major life transitions. Births, losses, relationships, crises, and breakthroughs often feel intertwined with the sky. People remember the phase of the moon when they moved to a new city, the sunrise on the day they made an important decision, or the eclipse that occurred during a period of personal transformation. These associations are not accidental. Humans naturally seek meaning in patterns, especially during times of change. The sky provides a stage upon which individuals project their emotions, weaving personal stories into cosmic cycles. During synchrony windows like 2025 to 2030, when celestial events cluster, many people may experience periods of heightened emotional reflection. Not because the universe imposes change, but because the unusual activity in the sky encourages people to pay attention. Awareness deepens. People find themselves noticing sunsets, tracking the moon, or following eclipse news. This renewed connection to the sky creates opportunities for introspection. Someone who feels stuck may question their direction. Someone who feels overwhelmed may find calm beneath a quiet lunar night. Someone who longs for meaning may discover it in the alignment of shadows and light. As the section deepens, we explore the psychological mechanism that makes cosmic events so personally impactful. When people witness something larger than themselves, something vast, beautiful, or mysterious, the mind expands. Perspective widens. Problems that once felt overwhelming shrink slightly. Goals once forgotten resurface. Awe softens the ego and opens the heart. Neuroscientists describe this reaction as a shift into a state of self-transcendent awareness, a mode in which humans feel more connected to others, more grounded in the present, and more open to possibility. Celestial events naturally invoke this state. We then bring the focus to small, everyday moments influenced by the sky. A quiet walk under a crescent moon. A conversation during twilight. A restless night during a bright full moon. A feeling of renewal on a clear sunrise. These mundane experiences, when noticed, become markers of personal rhythm. The sun and moon provide a gentle scaffolding for emotional life, moments of pause, moments of inspiration, moments of release. As we move toward the close of this section, we emphasize that personal timelines are not fixed. They shift, evolve, and transform with experience. Cosmic cycles do not dictate these changes, but they offer a language through which individuals can understand them. The sun represents clarity and action. The moon represents reflection and emotion. Eclipses represent interruption and renewal. These symbolic associations help people process their own lives, making celestial events not just natural phenomena but tools of self-understanding. The section concludes by transitioning toward the next chapter, where the focus shifts from individual experience to the peak of the cosmic synchrony windows ahead. If individuals feel personal shifts during celestial cycles, what happens when these cycles converge with unusual intensity? What collective and personal transformations might arise in the core alignment window of 2027 to 2029? The next section explores that convergence, a moment when cosmic motion reaches its crescendo. There are moments in history when time itself seems to gather, when cycles that typically run quietly in the background begin to overlap with unusual intensity. The years 2027 through 2029 form the heart of such a moment, a convergence point where cosmic rhythms reach their peak, where solar and lunar cycles harmonize, and where humanity stands in the cross-current of ancient celestial forces. This section guides the viewer into that narrow window, exploring what it means when the universe's rhythms synchronize and how such alignment shapes the emotional, environmental, and cultural atmosphere of an era. To understand why this period is significant, we begin with the sky itself. By 2027, the solar maximum will have fully unfolded, sending waves of magnetic activity outward into the solar system. Earth, like a vessel in a shimmering sea, will experience fluctuations in auroras, geomagnetic behavior, and atmospheric currents. At the same time, the moon will still be lingering near the extremes of its standstill cycle, creating wide arcs at the horizon and altering the emotional landscape with its unusual movements. Then come the eclipses, an intense cluster beginning in 2027 and continuing into 2028 and 2029. Solar and lunar shadows cross the Earth with a frequency and depth that echo synchrony windows from ancient records. It is not merely the number of celestial events that matters. It is their timing. It is their sequence. It is the feeling they generate as they unfold one after another, like notes in a cosmic symphony moving toward a crescendo. Humans sense this not rationally, but intuitively. Something about recurring sky events invites reflection, awakens old instincts, and heightens collective awareness. In this convergence window, the world may experience a subtle but profound shift in mood, a sense of anticipation without knowing exactly why, a tension that is not fear but heightened perception. During these years, several noteworthy eclipses take place, each carrying its own visual and symbolic weight. A total solar eclipse may plunge regions into midday twilight, casting crowds into collective stillness. A deep lunar eclipse may paint the moon in dark, coppery hues that stir ancient emotions. Annular eclipses form rings of fire that remind humanity of the sun's immense power and artistry. These events punctuate the convergence period with moments of awe, worldwide pauses where millions watch the same cosmic motion simultaneously. These shared moments create a sense of unity that transcends borders, languages, and beliefs. But what makes 2027 to 2029 truly extraordinary is the layering of cycles beneath the surface. The solar magnetic cycle begins to shift direction. The lunar nodal cycle approaches its transitional mid-phase. Long-term planetary cycles, those involving Jupiter, Saturn, and the outer planets, enter configurations that historically have aligned with periods of cultural expansion or reorganization. None of this dictates the future, but all of it forms a symbolic backdrop that frames how humanity interprets change. The convergence becomes a stage upon which new possibilities appear. As we move deeper into the narrative, we explore how such synchrony windows impact the psychological state of society. During times of convergence, individuals often report feeling more introspective, more imaginative, more willing to reevaluate their lives. Creative movements gain momentum. Philosophical dialogues intensify. Scientific curiosity expands. People ask questions they have been avoiding. They reconsider their priorities. When the sky appears to be in motion, the internal world mirrors that motion. The convergence window amplifies this effect, creating a global atmosphere of reorientation. Imagine being alive in 2028. News feeds buzz with images of eclipses, auroras, and unusual moonrises. Scientists release reports on solar activity and magnetic storms. Artists create new works inspired by cosmic colors and shadows. People gather on rooftops and beaches to watch celestial events unfold, feeling connected to strangers through a shared act of looking upward. These moments of collective participation linger in memory long after the events themselves fade. They become cultural anchors, reminders of a time when humanity paused to witness the universe. At the same time, the convergence window brings challenges that require resilience. Solar storms may stress electrical infrastructure, prompting innovation and global cooperation. Climate anomalies, shaped in part by solar activity, may create uncertainty, pushing societies to adapt. Technologies reliant on satellites may face temporary disruption, leading engineers to develop stronger systems. The convergence becomes not only a moment of inspiration, but a moment of pressure, a turning point that asks humanity to grow in both imagination and responsibility. Culturally, the years 2027 to 2029 may become remembered as a period of transition. Shifts in identity politics, global alliances, artistic expression, or technological paradigms may accelerate during this time. New narratives may emerge, stories about humanity's place in a vast, dynamic cosmos. For some, these years may spark spiritual or existential exploration. For others, they may catalyze scientific curiosity or social activism. The convergence window acts as a symbolic mirror, reflecting the needs and questions already brewing within society. This section also examines how individuals experience convergence on a personal level. During these years, people often find themselves confronted with choices that reshape their timelines. Endings and beginnings may occur with unusual intensity, relationships shifting, careers changing, creative pursuits awakening. Again, this does not imply cosmic causation, but psychological resonance. When the world feels in motion, individuals become more aware of their own momentum. Celestial synchrony encourages introspection, and introspection often leads to transformation. As the narrative unfolds, we use cinematic imagery to anchor the emotional tone. A city bathed in the eerie blue light of an approaching eclipse. A remote desert glowing with auroras for the first time in decades. A coastline illuminated by a supermoon at its standstill peak. People gathered silently in fields, forests, rooftops, watching shadows pass, feeling themselves part of something vast and ancient. These scenes capture the mood of the convergence years, quiet, reflective, electric with possibility. Approaching the end of this expanded section, we explore the symbolic significance of the convergence window. In mythology, the union or alignment of celestial beings often marks moments of transformation, heroes embarking on journeys, civilizations entering new eras, cosmic forces realigning. In the modern world, these symbols persist not in myth but in psychology. The convergence of 2027 to 2029 may become a metaphor for collective awakening, a period where humanity begins to question its relationship with technology, nature, and one another. The section concludes by preparing the viewer for the next chapter. If the convergence window represents a cosmic crescendo, what wisdom can be drawn from the humans who first learned to interpret the sky? What lessons did prehistoric skywatchers carry into their rituals, monuments, and stories? In the next section, we return to deep time, revisiting the worldview of our ancient ancestors to discover how their relationship with celestial cycles can guide modern humanity through the years ahead. Long before humanity built cities, traced constellations into star charts, or sent instruments into space, our ancestors stood under the same sky we see today. They had no satellites or telescopes, no mathematics to calculate orbital mechanics, yet they possessed something deeper, an instinctive awareness of the rhythms unfolding above them. The view from prehistory reminds us that human beings have always been creatures of the sky, shaped not only by the earth beneath them but by the lights that moved through the darkness each night. This section invites the viewer to step back into that ancient world and discover the wisdom carried by those who listened to the cosmos long before modern science existed. Imagine a small band of early humans gathered on an open plain thousands of years ago. Night has fallen. The air is cool. A fire crackles softly as sparks rise upward, dissolving into the glittering canopy of stars. Above them, the moon hangs brilliant and full, bathing the landscape in pale luminescence. These early skywatchers have no written language, yet they understand the significance of the moon intuitively. They know its phases affect the tides, the animals, their hunting success, and the patterns of migration. They mark time not with clocks but with shadows and cycles. In their world, the heavens are not distant, they are immediate, intimate, and alive. Over countless generations, these ancient observations formed the earliest frameworks of knowledge. The changing position of the sun across the horizon marked the seasons, the appearance of certain stars indicated the time for planting or moving camp, the moon's cycles became an internal calendar. Their survival depended on a deep sensitivity to nature's rhythms, and the sky served as their most reliable guide. Every sunrise, every solstice, every eclipse became part of a vast conversation between humanity and the cosmos. To prehistoric people, the sun and moon were not objects but beings with intention. The sun offered warmth, food, and safety, the moon governed the emotional landscape of night, shaping sleep, fear, and transition. When an eclipse occurred, the world seemed to pause. Birds fell silent. Temperature dropped. Shadows altered. Even without scientific understanding, ancient humans recognized these moments as significant. They responded with ritual, gathering together to witness the sky's transformation. Eclipses became events of unity, shared moments that strengthened social bonds and instilled a sense of collective meaning. Archaeological discoveries reveal how deeply prehistory was shaped by celestial awareness. Megalithic structures such as Stonehenge, Callanish, and Nabta Playa were not built randomly. They align with solstices, lunar extremes, and celestial events that occur only once in long cycles. These monuments were not merely architectural achievements, they were statements of cosmic reverence. To build something that aligns with a lunar standstill, which occurs only every 18.6 years, is to think in terms of generations, not days. It reflects a worldview in which humans saw themselves as participants in a grand, recurring cycle rather than isolated beings in a chaotic universe. This ancient mindset carries valuable lessons for the modern world. In prehistory, people understood that life moved in rhythms, times of darkness and light, growth and decline, stillness and movement. They embraced cycles as natural, not threatening. They did not seek constant acceleration or perpetual growth. Instead, they aligned their lives with cosmic patterns, respecting the balance between action and rest. In a contemporary era defined by constant stimulation, urgency, and noise, the prehistoric view reminds us that meaning often arises in stillness, reflection, and attunement. As we explore this ancestral perspective, we see that prehistoric humans were also deeply attuned to signs of transition. A sudden shift in the sky, an unexpected lunar eclipse or an unusual solar halo, could signify a need for change in their lives or communities. These events became catalysts for storytelling, ritual, and adaptation. They taught people to be flexible, resilient, and receptive to messages from the natural world. The convergence of cycles during 2027 to 2029 echoes these ancient patterns, inviting modern humanity to listen more closely to its environment and internal rhythms. Another powerful lesson from prehistory lies in the emotional relationship early humans had with the cosmos. They did not observe the sky with detached scientific curiosity, they felt it. The rising moon stirred emotion. The changing stars evoked memory. The movement of the sun signaled reassurance or warning. This emotional bond fostered a deep sense of belonging. People understood themselves as part of a vast, interconnected system, a perspective that modern life often obscures. Reconnecting with this prehistoric sensibility may help humanity navigate periods of uncertainty with humility and groundedness. We then imagine how prehistoric communities might have responded to a convergence window like the one ahead. They would gather at sacred sites, watching the moon rise at its standstill extremes or witnessing a sequence of eclipses with reverence. Their rituals would not be born of fear but of gratitude and awareness. They would see such synchrony as a time to reassess decisions, strengthen bonds, and honor the cycles guiding their existence. The wisdom of their response lies not in prediction but in presence. They met the sky with openness, allowing its patterns to shape their understanding of life's transitions. As this section deepens, we reflect on how modern society, for all its advancements, shares emotional continuity with prehistory. When people gather today to watch an eclipse or a meteor shower, their silence mirrors the silence of ancient observers. Their awe, their smallness, their sense of unity, these feelings are inherited from thousands of generations who lived closer to the land and sky. Beneath the layers of technology and complexity, the prehistoric human remains alive within each of us, responding instinctively to cosmic wonder. Approaching the end of this section, we recognize the core message: the sky has always been a teacher. It taught our ancestors patience, awareness, humility, and the importance of cycles. It reminded them that change is natural and that human life is part of a much larger story. As we enter the cosmic synchrony of the 2025 to 2030 decade, these lessons become more relevant than ever. By reconnecting with prehistoric wisdom, modern humanity gains a deeper foundation for understanding the transitions ahead. The section closes by guiding the viewer toward the next chapter. If prehistory offers lessons about living within cycles, the next section explores the philosophical questions those cycles raise, questions about fate, intention, meaning, and the human place in the universe. As we step from ancient memory into timeless inquiry, the sky continues to guide our journey. When we look up at the sky and witness the precise motion of the sun and moon, it is difficult not to wonder whether the universe follows a script or whether everything is simply the unfolding of chance. Throughout history, celestial cycles have stirred timeless questions. Are we part of a predetermined cosmic plan? Do celestial events carry meaning, or do humans create meaning in response to them? Does the universe guide us, or do we guide ourselves? In this section, we enter the realm of philosophy, exploring the deep, introspective inquiry awakened when cosmic rhythms intersect with human consciousness. We begin with an ancient tension, the idea of fate versus the power of choice. For early civilizations, the heavens often seemed like a map of destiny. Eclipses were messages from gods, comets were warnings, and planetary alignments were signals of change. The cosmos appeared intentional, structured, and purposeful. Yet even in prehistory, humans exercised free will. They hunted, migrated, created art, loved, fought, and built communities according to their own decisions. Their choices shaped the world even as they interpreted the sky as a guiding force. This duality has never vanished. Modern humans, equipped with science rather than myth, still grapple with the same paradox. Cosmic timing invites these reflections because it operates with such flawless precision. The moon returns to its phases with mathematical consistency. The sun's cycles pulse steadily over centuries. Eclipses recur in predictable patterns that repeat across generations. When humans witness these cycles, they feel the presence of order, an underlying rhythm that suggests the universe is not random. But order is not the same as intention. The cosmos may move with perfection, yet that perfection may arise from natural laws rather than purpose. This ambiguity is what gives cosmic events their philosophical power. As we explore deeper, we encounter the idea that humans project meaning onto the sky not because the sky demands it, but because meaning-making is an intrinsic human trait. When people see a total eclipse or a blood moon, they experience awe. Awe opens the mind, softens the ego, and creates space for existential questioning. Individuals begin to see connections that are emotional rather than empirical. A difficult life transition coinciding with an eclipse may feel symbolic. A major decision made during a full moon may feel guided. These interpretations help people shape their internal narratives, giving coherence to experiences that feel chaotic or overwhelming. Yet, the absence of literal cosmic intention does not diminish the value of these interpretations. The power of meaning does not depend on external validation, it depends on internal resonance. When a celestial event becomes a metaphor for transformation, a person's life may genuinely shift. When a rare alignment inspires contemplation, new ideas may emerge. When the convergence of cycles makes society collectively reflective, cultural change may follow. The meaning may come from within, but its impact is real. We then examine whether the universe might hold a deeper form of synchrony, not in the sense of fate, but in the resonance between natural cycles and human behavior. Just as the ocean's tides respond to the moon, human emotions and cultural patterns respond to rhythms in the sky. Solar maxima heighten global tension and creativity. Lunar cycles influence mood and perception. Eclipse clusters amplify introspection. These interactions are not mystical, they are psychological, evolutionary, and symbolic. They show that humans are not separate from the cosmos but expressions of it, shaped by the same forces that govern stars, tides, and seasons. This interconnectedness raises profound questions. If humans are shaped by cosmic rhythms, does that reduce free will, or does it expand it? Perhaps free will is not the absence of influence but the ability to respond consciously to influence. Just as a sailor cannot control the wind but can choose how to navigate it, humans cannot control cosmic timing but can choose how to interpret and act within it. The cycles of the sun and moon become environmental conditions, frameworks that shape emotional and cultural climate. Within that framework, choice remains not only possible but essential. As the narrative deepens, we explore the idea that meaning emerges through relationship. Celestial events only feel profound because humans are capable of perceiving them as profound. Without observers, an eclipse is simply a shadow; with observers, it becomes a doorway. This suggests a bridge between fate and free will. The universe provides patterns, but humans provide significance. Both forces together create the experience of cosmic timing. We then turn to the question of destiny. Many people feel that certain moments in their lives were meant to be, not because of external instruction, but because the events aligned with internal readiness. Cosmic synchrony often amplifies this feeling. When the world seems to shift, when the sky darkens, when the moon turns red, when cycles overlap, people sense that their own internal cycles are shifting as well. They may interpret this as fate, but it may instead be resonance, their inner world synchronizing with the outer world in ways that feel meaningful. This resonance can guide decisions without removing autonomy. A person may choose to begin a new chapter during an eclipse because the symbolism inspires them. Another may reflect on their direction during a solar maximum because the heightened energy mirrors their internal restlessness. These choices are free, yet influenced, much like all human choices, shaped by environment, emotion, culture, and context. Approaching the end of the section, we reflect on the possibility that fate and free will are not opposites but partners. Fate provides patterns. Free will provides interpretation. Fate sets the stage. Free will performs the story. Cosmic cycles may represent the stage lighting, shifting atmosphere, tone, and mood, while humanity writes and enacts the plot. The sky becomes not a dictator but a collaborator, offering cues, metaphors, and moments that help individuals and societies evolve. The section concludes by transitioning toward the future. If cosmic timing invites meaning, and if meaning shapes action, then what might the coming decade feel like in the collective imagination? What cultural atmosphere might emerge from the convergence of cycles? In the next section, we explore the visions of tomorrow, how the synchrony of the 2025-2030s may influence the direction of art, science, society, and identity in the unfolding story of humanity. As the cosmic synchrony of the 2025 to 2030 decade unfolds, humanity moves toward a threshold, a liminal space between what the world has been and what it is becoming. Celestial cycles do not dictate the future, but they create an atmosphere, a psychological climate that shapes collective imagination. The converging energies of solar maxima, lunar extremes, and repeated eclipses form a backdrop against which humanity will re-examine itself. This section looks ahead to the 2030s, exploring how this decade of sky-driven introspection may influence culture, identity, technology, spirituality, and the emotional tone of global civilization. We begin with the cultural atmosphere, which will likely be marked by a renewed sense of interconnectedness. Celestial events have a way of shrinking the world, if only for a moment. When a total solar eclipse sweeps across continents or when auroras shimmer unexpectedly far from the poles, people experience a shared moment of wonder. These moments accumulate. In the late 2020s, millions will witness multiple rare sky events, and this repeated experience of collective awe may influence the tone of the 2030s. Instead of defining themselves solely by nations, beliefs, or ideologies, people may increasingly think in global terms, seeing Earth as a shared home illuminated by the same sun, guided by the same moon, and shaped by the same cycles. Art and storytelling of the 2030s may reflect this shift. Themes of unity, interconnected ecology, cosmic perspective, and planetary identity may weave their way into literature, cinema, music, and digital expression. This does not mean humanity will abandon conflict or ideology, but that cultural creators will draw more heavily from cosmic symbolism, eclipses as metaphors for transformation, lunar extremes as symbols of emotional depth, solar storms as icons of intensity and renewal. Just as the Renaissance used celestial imagery to redefine human identity, the upcoming synchrony may inspire a new aesthetic vision rooted in wonder, fragility, and cosmic belonging. Technologically, the 2030s may become a decade of recalibration. The solar maximum of the late 2020s will reveal the vulnerabilities of modern infrastructure, prompting global efforts to create more resilient systems. Satellites may be redesigned with stronger shielding. Power grids may be reinforced with smarter load-balancing technology. Entire sectors could be reorganized to account for the solar cycle's influence. These advancements will not be purely defensive, they may also spark innovation. The need to understand and adapt to solar behavior could push scientific exploration forward, inspiring new research into magnetic shielding, space-based energy systems, and advanced forecasting models. At the same time, the moon will re-enter human consciousness in a way not seen since the space race. With lunar missions accelerating in the late 2020s, the 2030s may witness the first permanent lunar bases, the first commercial lunar operations, and the first generation of humans who grow up thinking of the moon not as a distant symbol, but as a tangible world within reach. This psychological shift could reshape identity, expanding the boundaries of what humanity considers home. The moon's cycles, already emotionally significant, may take on new meaning as technology and exploration blur the line between myth and reality. Spirituality may also evolve during this time. As more people reconnect with celestial rhythms, tracking eclipses, following the lunar standstill, paying attention to solar activity, there may be a renewed interest in contemplative practices. Not necessarily in traditional religious forms, but in personal, reflective, experience-based spirituality. Practices rooted in nature, cycles, astronomy, meditation, and cosmic symbolism may gain traction. People may seek meaning not in rigid doctrines but in the direct experience of awe, sunrises, eclipses, auroras, moonlit nights. The sky becomes a sanctuary again, a place where individuals reflect on their place in the universe. In this emerging atmosphere, identity becomes fluid and expansive. The 2030s may encourage a shift away from binary thinking, old versus new, spiritual versus scientific, natural versus technological, and toward integration. Cosmic synchrony invites synthesis, bridging opposites. Humanity may begin redefining progress not solely in terms of speed or innovation, but in terms of harmony, resilience, and alignment with natural cycles. This does not imply a return to primitivism, rather, it suggests a culture that values both ancient wisdom and modern advancement, seeking balance between the Earth's rhythms and technological ambition. This decade may also ignite a new era of ecological awareness. Witnessing celestial cycles makes people more conscious of Earth's fragility, how thin the atmosphere is, how delicately the climate responds to solar patterns, how dependent life is on cosmic stability. Environmental movements may shift from urgency and fear toward stewardship and reverence. Instead of protecting nature out of obligation, society may protect it out of awe, a deeper emotional connection forged by years of watching the sky's extraordinary behavior. The more humans see Earth as part of a living cosmic system, the more they may feel compelled to safeguard it. Socially, the 2030s may become a time of transition, where old institutions face pressure to evolve, and new systems begin to take shape. Cosmic synchrony often coincides with periods of cultural questioning. People may reflect on the purpose of work, the meaning of community, and the role of technology in daily life. Movements emphasizing slow living, mindfulness, or intentional community may grow. At the same time, innovation in communication and AI may create new forms of social organization that blend digital and physical presence. The overarching tone may be one of experimentation, humanity exploring not only the cosmos but new ways of living together. Individually, many people may experience the 2030s as a decade of personal awakening. As celestial events accumulate, they leave emotional traces. Someone who witnessed their first solar eclipse in 2026 may find themselves inspired years later to pursue a new path or question long-held beliefs. Someone who watched the moon stand still extremes may reflect on cycles within their own life, seasons of growth, decline, and renewal. The convergence window of 2027 to 2029 acts as a catalyst. The 2030s become a continuation of that momentum, a time to integrate the insights gained from moments of awe. Throughout this section, we emphasize not prediction but possibility. The purpose of exploring the cultural atmosphere of the future is not to claim certainty but to imagine the pathways that cosmic synchrony may open. The 2030s will not be shaped by the sky alone, they will be shaped by human response to the sky. If humanity enters the decade with curiosity, humility, and imagination, the convergence of cycles may inspire new chapters in science, art, spirituality, and societal evolution. The section closes by preparing the viewer for the next chapter. If the 2030s represent a time of visions and potential, what does it mean to view these cycles as part of a story older than civilization itself? What symbolic meaning emerges when the sun and moon unite in their rare alignments? In the next section, we explore the timeless narrative, the mythic and poetic heart of cosmic synchrony, and how it reflects humanity's ongoing search for balance, unity, and renewal.